Hello, happy bros. Hey, you're about to get a face full of the Ken Bozak. He's a mentor. That's what I heard. He's a connector. Oh, yeah. He's a brilliant leader. I've seen it. He's Ken Bozak. Oh, happy bro. You gotta get some Bitcoin and hold it. Happy bros. You gotta get those NFTs and you gotta hodl that stuff. You gotta hodl it. Some Ken bro. We got your Bitcoin, bro. He's an original. Buy some NFTs and hold them. How many times does he have to tell you? Going to the moon. We're going to the moon. We're going to the moon. We're going to the moon. Going to the moon. We're going to the moon. We're gonna get real high. 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 Yeah, we're going to the moon. We're going to the moon. Bro, we're going to the moon. Oh yeah, we're going to the moon. We're gonna get real high. Real high. Yep. Real high. Hello, happy bros. Come get your Ken Bozak.
And we're finally live.
Yes. We made it. How's it going, guys?
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I appreciate the bros here on the live stream. Don't forget to retweet if you're on Twitter, like and comment if you're on YouTube, and uninstall Facebook if you're watching there. I'm with my co-host, as always, Nathan, and we have our bro, Arcane Bear. How goes it, bro?
Yes, good to see you both. Thank you. I was looking forward to this conversation in my calendar, so I'm glad to be able to jump on and have a little chit chat with you both.
Yeah, sorry about the last schedule we had. I ended up having a whole day of no internet, no electricity. There's like a wild storm in New Jersey, and like I live in a cul-de-sac, so it's hard to get like good service. We're literally like 3 houses, and no one cares about us.
The irony is where he's at, and his internet was working, and yours was out. It's kind of hilarious.
Yeah, here I am in the middle of the jungle in Costa Rica with fiber optic internet running at like 50
I can't get
up and down.
fiber, bro.
He has better internet than Ken in New
Jersey. Comcast has a monopoly, dude. I can't get fiber anywhere in this area. There's like such a monopoly on the service provider. There's like one choice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So when it goes down, it's down, man.
This is one of the difficulties with pre-existing infrastructure is that you usually have to replace it. If there's no infrastructure there, it's a hell of a lot easier to build because there's nothing in the way. Like imagine you got a city center and you got all these buildings set up. You'd have to go and destroy them to put a bigger road in if you want to adapt in any way. Usually once you put in that hard ground infrastructure, the adaptation process becomes a lot harder. I like this idea because often we were kind of talking about this right before the show started, but the like improvisational aspect of life and kind of getting things right without trying not to do too much, because philosophically speaking, I think the universe is a pretty powerful thing, right? So we were talking about, newfound growth of wealth and how we all kind of manage our time and money, I guess, effectively as well. And I think it's an important conversation to ask, like to get into these deeper veins and streams of thought, because sometimes I don't know what the hell I'm doing either. And that's you should invest in randomness. You should invest in serendipity. You should invest in the unknown. And I think a lot of people just don't make those first steps. Like, I've been watching you do your NFT thing and play around with it. And it's always exciting to be I don't want to use the word revolutionary, but to play on the waves and to play in the cutting edge of what's going on. Whether you happen to pick up a like TikTok or even like right now, it would be, I think we're live on YouTube, right?
Oh,
Is
we're
that a
live on
thing?
like 12 platforms. So yeah.
See, what the fuck is that? That's so crazy. So I'm grateful to be here with you guys. I'm excited to have the like dive into some thoughts with you and see where we end up.
Yeah, same here. This is going to be an amazing conversation. We almost ruined the whole conversation before the show by just talking about anything and everything. Then we literally had to go, shut up to each other. So we know this is going to be good.
So let me just jump right into a little bit of how has life been in Costa Rica during like the lockdown and the pandemic and everything. I'm just curious because like where I'm at in the States here, it's nothing's open past 9 p.m. It's real weird. So I'm just curious, like is Costa Rica like on the similar type of lockdown?
No, we're back to mostly normal here.
Okay.
Although there is a prevailing factor here that I think is hyper important to recognize. First off, vitamin D is extremely important in general health of the body, from what I can tell. I'm not a doctor in any way,
I
shape,
am
or
the
form,
palest person in this chat right now. I know
Yeah.
I need the D.
So what? When our summer hit, because we were in a spring to fall, we were in like the dead midst of the rainy season between basically October, November, December, and then it's pretty much as soon as January comes around, it's like a light switch happens, and it is hot and sunny every day for the next 6 to 9 months, basically.
Ooh,
nice.
And when that happened, our infection rates dropped dramatically. Case rate, everything started to drop dramatically. A, well, people are probably outside more often, and B, they're getting a lot of that pro hormone that like vitalizes their innate immune system. So there's all this, it's so fucking mind boggling that politicians are so shitty at having any type of scientific conversation. And more importantly, that there isn't a clear platform for the scientific conversation to actually come out ahead of the politics, which is just like a bastard version of science. Like science, as difficult as it is, people already have a hard enough time changing their mind about shit when there is like a lot of evidence and data being like, no, we obviously got this thing wrong. So it moves slowly, even science and politics quite often. So here we don't really have the same troubles now, because I think primarily because summer has been such a great help to the individual's immune system, but also people can't just not go to work here. There's no I think the government gave out a little bit of money to people, but a very small amount. We just don't have the ability to print. And
everybody didn't get a stimulus check?
no, they have to go to work. They actually have to open up their tiendas or stores selling the fish or the regular day goods that they have. I mean, aside from the abstraction, I was really grateful. I have a property here with I had like a waterfall to chill in while everybody's like locked up in their apartments. I was really enjoying owning property at that particular moment. And I think that even more noticeably, I think the biggest lesson for me, and it's one that I've kind of borrowed wisdom from before, and I'm sure a lot of us have heard this idea, but I think the Chinese word, I think you would have to double check here, the Chinese word for crisis is also opportunity. And you hear like the Baron von Rothschild's quote of, buy when there's blood in the streets. And I'd always kind of thought that those were metaphors to some degree. I didn't really understand that, like the visceral reality of that depth of fear that people go into at like the beginning of the pandemic. Because I think I feel like I kind of saw it coming late January. I was like, oh my God. And people aren't putting on like masks to try to slow this down. Like, oh, it's going to be weird. We don't know what the fuck it is. Like, I have no idea. You just in general, you should be, I think, more cautious when it comes to because these are like, you consider any virus like a biological weapon, even if it didn't happen to come from a motherfucking lab. This is a biological weapon that's designed
from
to
Mother
hurt
Nature.
You guys. Like,
who cares?
It should be terrifying, like no matter what your perception of virus.
Oh, I did Google the Chinese opportunity word, and it looks like it may be Huiji, Weiji, and then it says,
that's what it is.
However, Ji by itself translates to opportunity, where Huiji, Wei. Ouija is crisis. So half of crisis is an opportunity. Exactly.
Yes. Yeah. And it marked a point in my life where I will forever take this moment forward, because when everybody gets scared,
whole claim to fame is right when people are running, from the fire, run towards it. When people are running away, run towards, and
it seems to be this universal thing. Like there's a deep layer of that human psychology there, where when everything's going good, we irrationally overvalue stuff, right? Like compared to water right now, you're telling me this thing is worth how much? Like maybe I went into a little bit of an overdrive mode. Like I had a second fridge, I had a double, I was ready to go. Like whatever happened, I was making my coffee on fire
Man,
outside.
people like you
I
were
thought about
kind
buying a
of
fucking horse.
hoping that. Yeah, I know it. These preppers are out here like, oh, let it happen today. Let it happen today.
Hey, you're like, fuck yeah, all right, I'm gonna do this.
I have a CB radio I've been waiting to turn on.
It was probably one of the most important learning experiences for the rest of my life because of the value return on that thesis. It didn't take me very long to recognize it. If you go back to my YouTube videos, like April, May, after March, because in March I was thinking about buying horses. I was going full cowboy mode potentially, like I was not yet sure what had happened, but it was also the first time that I was a little bit older and I had things to lose.
Yeah.
I think that was a big part of it, was that in 2001 or 2008 in these other crises, I didn't have anything to lose. I was still like doing whatever the hell I wanted. There was no danger to me specifically because I never relied on the banking system or having a business. I stuck my thumb out and hitchhiked to Central America when I was 18 years old. Like I was just chilling. I was playing music, having a good time. And I think part of the process and the most important aspect is that's when like the investment thesis starts. It's like, and they happen frequently. You measure out, you just go back in time. You're like, oh, wait, so like we get scared frequently and for good reason. It's not for bad reason. Like there's a lot of shit to be not, and maybe scared is the wrong word, but like to recognize as a potential danger. It's like, that's a fair logical assumption of
you
certain
have to
things.
have reverence, basically.
Yes. And when that wave takes over, we all become extremely over rational to the downside. So part of me looks back and like, wait, could I have recognized that things might be getting bad because of how good things were in 2019? Like 2019, I'm feeling like a fucking champion, right? Everything's going amazing. There's access to every kind of thing you might want in life, pretty much. And then very, very short term after. So I kind of ask and just these weird questions with myself. I'm sitting in the jungle. I'm starting to recognize, like, do these waves happen not because of we're necessarily anything to do with it? Is it? And more often than not, it's an external, something external that kind of sends the shockwaves of fear. We've even thought about these externalities. Some people call it the black swan, but for me to recognize that, know that it happens over and over and over again. Maybe you get like 3 times, 4 times where it happens in your life. And like, oh man, we're going to clean up over the next 2 decades because people are still going to get irrationally fearful and they're going to become irrationally euphoric. And we're going to cycle up and down between these ideas. And as long, as long as I'm out here reading my books, meditating, playing my instruments, like the waves here are absolutely enormous. So I'm really excited. I think the opportunity of the crypto sector for the average person is so fucking high because there's so many combined forces to bring us this. What I think it's a Gujarati word or an Indian from India where it's called Dundao, where it's just this asymmetric potential for the upside with very limited downside, right? Like how many investments could you have made in March that was only $1,000 that today is now worth like 150 grand plus, right?
At
It's
least
just
3
insanity.
I did it.
See? So this methodology of, I think, of finding that peak fear and making investments in assets is like how you clean up, and you have to just be very logical about it. Like next time people are rationally fearful and there's a pandemic going on, I'm not doubling down on steak for my fridge. You should probably already have that full anyways, but to make sure that most of my acquisition play goes in almost exactly at the moment that there's this like foaming at the mind where I'm worried, like when I'm worried. So I'm just, it made me really excited for the future because the gains have been enormous, and the opportunity of venture capital at this kind of open source playbook where everybody can have access to information for the most part. Like we're still missing another half of the world. And my hope is that we can get the underbanked and the underserved from the information standpoint come online, hopefully more effectively. But I think it's really exciting to see that, that growth is replicatable, and that when I now viscerally understand these what I thought was borrowed wisdom for myself for a bunch of years, which is when Others are fearful. No, I was still scared. I didn't even have the time to take that in. Now I know. I'm like, oh, that's a mantra. Like, you write that down. You be very serious about that, because you don't need to do much to make extraordinary gains. And that was kind of another fun mentality that came out of this idea of Zhan Dao, which is that you don't need to be extraordinary to make an extraordinary amount of money if you follow these types of asymmetry, because you're dealing with a huge amount of upside and potential. And the venture capital world has sat there for a bunch of years. And if you can make small investments and be patient for 5 to 10 year plays, there's countless evidence of 100x gainers or 500x gainers in multiple industries, not just in the tech industry, in railroads over 50 years, right?
Oh, could you imagine what cannabis has done for people in just the past 5 years, right? The cannabis industry and investing in that. Or GameStop just recently, earlier you mentioned the serendipity and everything. I mean, like, without this lockdown and stimulus checks, and I don't know if we would have seen GameStop stock come to that point and see people that are in, places in their lives where maybe they wouldn't have been able to seize an opportunity, like buying Dogecoin at like a penny with stimulus money and seeing Elon Musk pump it to a dime.
Right.
I got it a quarter penny.
It's crazy.
I will forever keep Doge in my portfolio. Yeah,
I made so much off of putting like a couple grand in last year. I mean, it's kind of crazy. It was under a quarter of a cent for a little bit.
I remember seeing Doge at 1 cent. I
think the philosophy I like, I call
crazy.
Bitcoin like our kind of North Star for what I like as a money, and something like Doge, like our Southern Cross, because I think all of these should be looked at as votes for open source monetary standards or open source contract standards, effectively, right? And it's such a very valuable space. And also when I do things like own Doge and just don't think about owning it, but always have exposure to it, it reminds me that I don't know how the universe works. Like, I don't know how this thing works. Like, I've gotten right, and it could surely all have up like nothing but blind luck up to this moment. So let's play the game a bit more humbly and actually find exposure, and even more importantly, experiment. Like, what's the experimental cost of owning Doge? There's nothing. Well, why not then? Why not take the risk? These like small, very asymmetric potential risks, like, where again, let's rewind, right? We pretend it's 2013 or something like this. You're buying $100 in Doge because you want to learn about it. That learning experience is worth the $100 at the very least, right? So, you fast forward, you forgot about the Doge. Well, maybe that $100 is worth an extra 10, 20 grand for you. Well, the learning experience pays off astronomically. We've seen that with can you connect your wallet to Uniswap for giving you capital, or to 1inch for giving you capital? Like, time and time again, we've been rewarded for participating. And I think this entire sector, the more we build it around these kind of philosophies and concepts, like, I'm not a coder, I'm not a developer, I'm just barely a good investor because I don't do a whole lot. I like pick 7 things. Like, you could put a monkey in our positions right now, a monkey's walking away with $1 million+ if they started with 100 grand. Clearly, so I still feel like a monkey. So I'm not trying to like pat myself on the back for doing well. I'm like, okay, well, the technology is good, it's sound, but it's still a fact that I'm alive is probably a pretty lucky thing. I'm grateful for that. But what I like having small exposure with this asymmetric upside, and when people find that, I think it's mathematics where I found it. I like reading books by people. Do you guys know who Benoit Mandelbrot is?
Benoit, I know the name Benoit, but that might be because of a movie.
No, what if I just say Mandelbrot, like the Mandelbrot set? Have you heard of the Mandelbrot
You
set?
lost me at books, man. I'm not a reader. I'm not ashamed to admit it.
I mean, I've probably passed over it, but I don't.
I'd rather run 5 miles with a lion behind me than read a book.
That's great. No, that's great. Well, you got to know what you like. That's important.
Dude, that's what I try to tell
hyper
people.
Important.
Whatever you I'm curious, do you embrace discomfort, or are you somebody who tries to seek out comfort? Like, you know what I mean? Like when you're looking at investment opportunities, right? Oh. No, well, that's what I mean. I mean specifically in investment opportunities or things like that. Do you put yourself in situations that you would deem uncomfortable, or do you try to favor things that you just genuinely naturally feel comfortable when involved in?
So let's use a kind of a very noticeable mark that would stand out for this type of methodology. For instance, I was definitely considered a criminal by the governments for my interest in psychedelic mushrooms when I was younger, I consider myself just to be thoroughly ahead of the curve. The difficult part is how do you hold conviction and maintain with yourself within the legal boundaries without getting in trouble necessarily, and still be that kind of out of the box with your investments. So the uncomfortable aspect, if I can't sleep because of a position or something, I'm probably doing something wrong. Effectively, that's a good way to try to measure it. But more importantly, I think because it's asymmetry, take that same amount of money. You're like, okay, well, I'm making $10,000 plus investments into multiple ideas. How well do you do? Okay, I'm making $1 million investments in multiple X. We've seen extraordinary upside in the venture capital sector, and often you see these memes. They're like, oh, if you would have invested in Tesla, it would only be up X%. But it doesn't tell you how much you would be up if you invested as Tesla as a private fucking equity investor, or like early seed stage capital. And right now, this whole sector is kind of offering this early stage participatory event where you effectively, because we're, everything's kind of a speculation in value and price relativity. That's why we see such dramatic drops and when market cycles, floors fall out. But the ability to participate in almost infinite upside should not be overlooked by anyone right now. I think even if you're, whether you like reading books or whether you don't like reading books, you should definitely be interested in the blockchain and crypto sector because of the raw potential for this new style of participation, delivery, and reward system. Like we definitely can tell at this point, I think, that we're going to see in the future, and we're seeing versions of it now, that when a new Facebook is born or when a new Twitter comes to life, that you're going to be rewarded in playing. And I think this is probably just the easiest way for people to recognize social participation. But in FTX or in Binance, like, what if you've just been buying Binance token, all the maximalists are like, oh, fucking Binance Smart Chain. Well, first off, I don't think Binance Smart Chain is a smart idea necessarily. The Binance token was a smart idea because it was a revenue generating business. It was generating a lot of fucking revenue. Yep. They were doing what's effectively modern day stock buybacks. Like, how out of center from an investment thesis do you need to be to miss that? And it was raw alpha. Like, who gives a fuck if it's not Bitcoin? But you need revenue generating businesses. You need active wealth creation as well. It's not just about, we've got like money solves everything. Like, back to my fucking day. Like, guys, there's an infinite amount more businesses that are going to take place here. This is about a wealth generation event, and it's not just Bitcoin. It's such a silly mindset, I think. And again, I'm not a fan of the Binance Smart Chain. I think it's basically an overhyped digital ledger system. I think there are much cooler potentials.
I think all of this is overhyped, to be honest, man. Yeah, it's like we're talking about like
I don't know.
Plumbing.
I think this is a future.
We don't hype plumbing enough, like flushing your shit in the morning is like, we should idolize that technology, but we're so used to it. Yeah. It's boring, and this technology will be so ubiquitous to the way we live our lives. It will eventually be all boring.
That's what I've been saying. What are we all going to talk about when everybody knows about it? They're going to be like, all right, quit talking. Like, if there's a guy talking about like dollar bills and why dollar bills are cool and like all this stuff, you'd be like,
I feel like, eventually somebody's going to be the Peter Schiff of Bitcoin, right? Like, we're tired of hearing about gold.
This is where I disagree. I have been ridiculously fascinated and like in bewilderment at how fast the technology sector has moved. Because when I was 16 fucking years old, like the first time I was taking mushrooms around, I thought a fucking ham radio was cool. We have accelerated so quickly. So yes, you're right. There's a lot of people have become numb to the acceleration, like a frog in boiling water. Is
I'm still fascinated
the
personally,
exactly,
but
like that.
The mainstream is going to get bored.
I've never once been bored by this shit. Like, I have not sat down. I'm hyper fascinated by all this technology. Like, we have moved so quickly. Like, there's heats. You can go buy a drone right now for like $1,000 that has thermal imaging. So we could buy a drone, we could lift it up, we could fly it over Costa. We could find animals in the jungle with $1,000 drone. Like, we have accelerated so quickly into this exponential growth. And I think it's one of the things that's dramatic, that we can do a live stream, that we can have a community, like that we're operating with such a low cost of entry to all of this. What's taking place is such a extraordinary opportunity. I just hope everyone participates and goes through their like earning of their badges from getting burned. Maybe even they fuck with scams. Don't do that, but it comes.
Or do that. I mean, that's what.
That's
we're
way to
like-
learn.
Life comes through experience.
Right,
Yeah.
that's what
Fuck
I mean.
around with
Some
shit.
people may learn through BitConnect, and I met a lot of people who learned.
Yeah.
I met a lot of people who learned more about Bitcoin through BitConnect than they ever would have learned about Bitcoin without it. And that's why I mentioned the whole comfort or discomfort. And there's people, I think, trying to be the square peg fitting themselves into a round hole, not realizing that their square peg to a square hole is just right to the left or right of that round hole. And they're trying to, flow with the flock into things that may not be in their wheelhouses. But this is so encompassing of the world and industries that whether you're a graphic designer, a writer, an editor, whatever the case may be, you could be a cashier at McDonald's. There is a very good job for you in this industry using crypto and blockchain. Just get in where you fit in, and it eventually feels very effortless as opposed to putting in all of this effort as a square peg trying to jam yourself into the round hole.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, there's a unique aspect of life. Bruce Lee would said, "Be like water," which is just to go with the changes. And you still have to put in an extraordinary amount of time to be here, to be present, and to go through the motions. To to make sure you're like pulling in reps, making sure you're breathing deep, whatever it might be. But there definitely seems to be an underlying architecture to that success. And I don't necessarily know that comfort always gets in the way. It definitely can screw you up, and that's why I like these bodes of votes for randomness or votes for the unknown, because it's always what's brought me enjoyment and kind of reaching out into I'll pick up any instrument because I love music and I want to find out. I'm going to make a bunch of fucking mistakes, right? And there's not a high cost to that mistake. Oh, it sounds bad, right?
Actually, I lost $3,000 finding out that I can't play the piano, the guitar, or the violin because I paid a professional to try their best. So I have lost money actually trying to learn an instrument, but it was worth it to me because I learned that I couldn't do it. Like physically, ambidextrous, maybe video games, anything past that, my right and left hand, right and left brain do not work on the same days.
It's not easy. I mean, I don't think it's easy.
Yeah.
Still.
I am
I
very
think everyone
jealous
runs
of
into that.
guitarists.
I think
Nathan.
everyone runs into that trouble.
It's
at
hard
first,
for
Ken.
sure. I mean, I have a lot of songs that I love that I can't play on guitar, but I still try it. And like you said, it's not a high cost of failure there.
Yeah, this is. I mean, I think this is
about
such
feeling.
These are such poignant ideas when you go through the long term of not a high cost of failure if you do it right.
Yeah.
It only needed to be $1,000 in your monkey dart throwing protocol. Although I do suggest everyone does some deep dive research. There's an incredible amount of really cool stuff going on. But again, when you're looking at it just from a probability or a numbers game, the numbers game itself actually performed extraordinarily well because in a bull market, nobody actually knows the future to some degree, right? Anything can happen, and having a bet on anything can happen, I think, is a very wise idea. And what it usually ends up meaning, at least for me, it's meant that I've done a lot of research and I listen to a lot of people talk about stuff that I think is interesting, and I've learned more in the process about what it is that I'm actually witnessing. Because for me, I was first sold on Bitcoin just being like, oh, here's an open source monetary standard. We vote by buying in. Well, great. I love this. This is simple enough. Like I can get behind that. Like even if the code's not right, the philosophy to me is tangible. Yeah. Such a huge selling point.
Yeah,
and I think this whole space offers that. Like, Ken, how many NFTs have you launched?
Probably, yeah. I mean, at least 10,000 or more.
2,000, yeah.
And you're launching them on Wax.
Recently, yeah, I'm using Wax right now. I've definitely made over 6 figures in NFTs since the beginning of the year.
So is Wax a different blockchain?
Yeah, they're built on EOS, so they're
an EOS fork.
EOS
sidechain.
They use EOS's blockchain, so they're a DApp. I would say, I guess.
They're like a layer 2 in some ways to like what a layer 2 would be to Ethereum, I guess.
So their primary selling feature is the cost. And they're also offsetting the risk of EOS because at one point you're like, okay, well, is NFTs as important as locking up billions of dollars of funds in a liquidity pool?
Well,
or
they're
something?
actually
Like,
becoming more chain agnostic by incorporating Ethereum, Binance Smart Chain, and multiple blockchains now as well.
yeah,
To
from a
offload
cost
a lot of
perspective, it makes
bandwidth.
cost
fucking
only.
sense, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why so many people went to Binance. It's just cost effective. It just like people stopped caring what the tool was for necessarily. Like, gets the
Isn't
job
that
done. You're
nice?
like,
I
As an
mean,
investor, I like it. I
to
mean,
see the
when I was getting it for
tribalism break
$30,
down.
you know, it's this time last year is like 17, somewhere between 17 and $40, and now it's, you know, over $600 depending on the day, $400 at least.
It almost feels like we have American Express maximalists in crypto, where they, they don't
don't
care
understand the
how
maximalism
expensive the
thing.
fees are or how scarce they could actually use it. They're just, they're not fans of utility. The tribalism, I think, prevents a lot of people from actually acknowledging when things do and don't suck, and when to migrate or maybe migrate back. Sometimes
yeah.
I think it's fine to build on Ethereum and then move out and then move back in if 2.0 works out, but the tribalism prevents a lot of that, where people are afraid to use multiple pieces of technology, where it's like building your website with anything but HTML is like, okay, it's a scam. You use Java, that's a scam.
You can't have ego in tech. Your tech shouldn't have ego. It's gonna like not progress like it should. It's not gonna stay with the time.
Look at Apple.
Even from a simplistic standpoint, you take something like Binance, you go, this is a company. They are generating revenue. That's not a shitcoin. Like, you're like, that's basically, goes so far. Like, you're calling fucking Tesla a shitcoin. Yeah. How is that relevant in modern day? We have businesses, we have equity, we have private ownership and other things. It can't always be just like Bitcoin is the only fucking thing in the world. It makes zero sense. It doesn't make any sense from and I think Binance has been one of these. I'm a much bigger fan of FTX, first of all.
Okay.
If you like Binance, well, I guess you guys are both American citizens.
Yes,
is that
sir.
correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you have less freedoms than the rest of the world to some degree in certain areas, but
very less.
that's okay. I love FTX. I think what Sam has put together is fantastic. And here again, we're looking at another revenue generating business that is operating with modern day stock buybacks. The token is what defines it out of an asset from a shit coin. This company is generating fucking revenue. They've been generating revenue for a few years now. We know that. So, this is what people like Warren Buffett used to look at when they're making investments. Is their cash flow? What's the earnings ratio? How much are they doing stock buybacks or dividends? Can we reinvest in this company because of those dividends? And Binance was one of the first to try to offer this through the BNB token, where we'll give you discounts. We'll buy them back. We'll burn them. We'll
give you a Lambo if you're the biggest trader using the trading pair. That was what really turned me on. The first time I saw CZ say, we're giving away a Lamborghini. And I was like, wait, what? If you go back and look at Ken Bozak BNB video on YouTube, I was telling people to buy at least 100 Binance because they're only $1 each right now.
Yes. And again, this represents, you're talking a limited amount downside if you're using a small amount of money. And that just depends on what small is to you.
Yes.
Right. Effectively. Yeah. And also to just understand that asymmetry can be a potential almost infinite upside. This is not a new thing. I've been listening to a book called 100 Baggers recently, and it goes over a bunch of investments from the early 1900s to today on the open market that all did 100x and how long it took them to do that, right? Where if you put in 10 grand and you wait, you were walking away with $1 million fucking dollars, right? And this is from the open market. These BNB at its early stage was almost like equity or in an early seed stage company, because the start side was basically zero. We're looking at trillion-dollar industries that are being born over the next 20 years in the financial sector in this new technology. So it's kind of, I think it's silly to be a maximalist in any way, shape, or form. There's just so much growth potential by playing that Dun DAO form, or that limited risk investment with infinite upside, and that's a venture capital model as well. Is that I will risk limit. Gary Vee's like, I normally cut checks for 25K into something like Uber. He's like, and I didn't do it. It was like 25K. That's the regular venture. Like, that's a fair check for a venture capital, because usually they have to wait like 6 to 7 years. Does it go public? It could be a total failure. But that's where they were going from 25 grand to like maybe hundreds of millions of fucking dollars. And they don't measure that on the like get rich memes, right? But that's regular venture capital, and that's what we have the opportunity here for right now. I'm ridiculously like blown away. Some of the early positions we took in things like Fetch, Matic, Seller,
Matic.
I took
Matic.
out principles way too fucking early. Like I was measuring like maybe a 5 or 10x, and then they go 80x in a year. Are you kidding me? Like and this is one of the funny things and one of the downsides in previous venture capital, you couldn't move your funds in early liquidity stages at all, right? So the first 5 to 7 years, if you made an investment in
locked.
Uber, it's not going nowhere. There's nobody buying it. If it was, you'd have to do as a private deal with all this paperwork. It'd be a pain in the ass, right? So you just sit and chill. And the venture capital model used to give investors this kind of like, well, first a locking or what they call a vesting period in these investments. So I think the more people take into account this opportunity, what it represents, and how other extraordinarily wealthy investors have taken advantage of it over this year. You know, we start our thesis when people get scared. We make sometimes small or whatever is small for you. Maybe that could be $1 million investment as well. That might be a small investment for you. Definitely met. I have some friends where that's a small investment for them, right? But even still, the venture capital model is almost riddled with $25,000 investments and then reinvestments time and time again as they become more and more positive about the fact that they got it right. Some of these things go up and come all the way back down to zero. Ethereum, in my mind, is maybe still a venture capital play. Like maybe it could be replaced by something infinitely better. Although at this point, it seems much more likely that they're all figuring out how to talk, and it becomes a niche community the same way people like fucking Ray-Bans.
That's what I've always said.
Like
Aviators?
Ray-Bans, Von Zippers, and what I don't know who else makes sunglasses. There's a bunch of other companies, I'm sure. You just
like
end up getting a
Oakley's
niche.
or something.
Yeah, Oakley's.
That's the famous one that everybody talks about.
We're just going to have a group of probably financial niches and markets, and Binance probably looks like they're going to remain one of them at this point. I think FTX as well. And again, this
creating
is the
ecosystems.
Yeah, well, look at the graph.
But this brings up like an interesting, topic that we don't really touch on too much in this space is, I just saw today Jack Ma was hit with like a $3 billion fine for making too much money. And nobody, I think, is out of reach from government repercussions. So when we start to see people like CZ disrupting the world's financial sector in a position where he's at in the world, looking at what even Jack Ma is going through right now, it's pretty scary. And I know you probably keep up with what happened with Arthur Haynes and BitMEX, him being arrested by the SEC. I can't say that CZ and Binance is impervious to those same repercussions that Arthur Haynes or even Jack Ma is being like,
this is why they're aimed to go the decentralized route and build that infrastructure quickly enough. I'm surprised you haven't seen a BNB airdrop yet.
Honestly,
it boggles my mind that they haven't just, instead of burning it, giving it away to people.
Yeah,
and they might because there's these questions of how do you build a model that's decentralized? Do you give the people voting rights? Do you build they're building a chain, they're building a DeFi sector. And again, I'm much more interested in Sam's FTX instead of Binance personally. I just have they just seem to build better products and I trust that. I'm like, okay, I've used that product. It's a better product. I'm going with the better product.
A lot of these products could be replaced by protocols though. Like
I think
wallets,
that's what they're building.
Replacing exchange. Yeah, exactly.
Binance Smart Chain was a stab at that. FTX has Solana, the FTT token, and Serum, which is an open source of like derivatives.
Solana.
Everyone's going to become a DAO because there's going to be, they want to offload that responsibility of a single individual's, having the CEO, smoking a joint on a Joe Rogan podcast, dumping your stocks about 100 to 200% because of one puff. Now there's a DAO. There is no CEO. It's just a fanboy on a podcast with Joe Rogan at that point. And Elon Musk doesn't have to get sued for every tweet that he tweets. I definitely could see companies like, Binance DAOing out. And then inspiring legacy companies to potentially do the same.
Yeah, we always see this kind of tech difficultly moves very quickly. It's hard to keep up for that reason. But just making, again, you start with that simple premise. You can make small acquisition phases and just wait for 5 to 7 years. And on average, we're seeing over 100x positions. That means for every 5 to 7 years that you can make around a $5,000 to $10,000 investment in something, you're talking about $1 million 5 years down the road. and this is not just the crypto sector. This has been happening for 100+ years in the markets through people who know how to take advantage of, again, that opportunity or the crisis and the irrationality of a price of an asset, and then the movement into euphoria. And that's where we're kind of at right now. Like we're in the mountaintops. We get to see the next 10 years. We get to see the development of what some of this stuff can do. Now, you've brought up a really great point, which is, how far will governments reach to control the technology as well as the capital flows? And what I think we're seeing right now, and I'm a part of it, is that you generally see migrations. You see capital, whether it's intellectual or monetary, move to the places where it is less regulated and more open. Now, I don't know where that is necessarily, but Dubai offers an amazing 0% capital gains. It's like no auditing, no books, no nothing.
It's nice.
It's amazing. Like, what kind of nonsense is this? Like, I like
But
this.
then we
Good.
get the United Nations together. They motivate the G8 to do what they do, and it may not be an opportunity to migrate to places after a while because they could collude on this. You know,
I think the bigger
We even have
danger
those in our
is
government.
not,
I mean,
you know, I really think I think the United States, even though it's full of problems, this idea of prosperity through risk and innovation is a really important driver of not just interesting things, but people and how we've survived for so long, that we as a species and not just a culture are driven by innovation to overcome obstacles. And when, you know, I think that maybe the bigger problem here is that the Chinese Communist Party doesn't look favorable to open course discussion, and more so, countries are starting to look disfavorably towards something that I think should be one of our hallmarks, which is the ability to talk shit and eat plants if you want to. And you're right. Countries like Singapore and Dubai and the United Arab Emirates don't offer those freedoms. You know, in Costa Rica, mushrooms here are 100% legal. There, people have like businesses that operate just giving mushroom ceremonies out here legally, right? Because it's not a scheduled medicine at all, and they do a good job of managing because they don't want to get in trouble. But you
they
know,
don't want
this is a game of
customers either, right? I can definitely
well,
see
it's
that.
hopscotch freedoms. Okay, well, look, I've got freedoms to eat mushrooms here, and I've got freedoms for 0% taxes there, and I'm a resident of this country, so that what type of freedom do you need? I think is a big part of the question. That's why I moved to Costa Rica originally, is because I wanted that type of freedom. I was like, oh, I can live in the jungle. I grow ayahuasca here. It's amazing. Like I love this little thing of freedom that I couldn't have anywhere else, you know, and Costa Rica has no laws against ayahuasca. And so again, part of it is that interest of freedom, whether it's a monetary freedom or simply an intellectual or a philosophical pursuit. You know, generally the downside is once people start to, you know, we've seen really big negative consequences for, I guess, pursuing people for their interests, whether it was for their religion or their back culture. We've time and time again, like these moments might turn into like fairly revolutionary moments. Because, but I don't think it's necessarily the Western culture and the Eastern cultures are both amazing, from their the people, right? The people are generally fucking amazing. Most of the people I've met in my life are all caring, kind people. Now there's the outliers there that are just out there to fuck with others, but they're actually fewer and farther between. The majority of people that I've met are all nice people, just trying to like get by in life and appreciate the small things with their family. So, but there are these outliers that kind of move everything. Like, have you guys ever seen the film The Last King of Ireland or something like this?
Last King of Ireland. No, that sounds amazing though.
It sounds like something I know, but I feel like one of the words is off. Like one of the countries is off. I don't know.
Okay, if you like watching movies, do you like watching movies?
Oh, I live on that. I'm looking it up.
Okay.
Right now.
Well, I see you're in Rick's garage.
Dude, I am a cartoon.
Everybody always asks, like, did you draw that or what? It's kind of funny.
I've got an idea. You're really gonna love jumping on. We're starting a cartoon podcast called Space Chats, but that was totally besides the point. What the fuck?
No, it's
cartoon podcast. That's
never
amazing.
besides the point.
Yeah, I don't remember what I was saying now. That's how.
Oh, it says The Last King of Scotland.
That's what it is. The Last King of Scotland.
I knew it was slightly off.
Okay, so The Last King of Scotland is this kind of fictional story, as far as I know, some true events about the leader of Uganda named Idi Amin, and at that time Uganda a lot of the wealthy people were a group of Indians and Muslims. Arabic and Indian people generally, but a family, like two or three families, like I think it was the Patels and I think the Ismailis were the family of the Muslims that were out there. And Idi Amin was a great, like, mind bent leader, like basically slaughtering people
don't
and
even
forcing
know.
them. So the Patels and the Ismaili Muslims escaped. They just all ditched their stuff and took off, right? So we see that once a culture or a people or a family starts to get pursued for their interests, right? Because they ended up becoming they ended up becoming some of the wealthier families in Uganda because they were good at business. Like their whole family was fucking good at business. Apparently, the Patels, after they escaped and in Uganda, moved to the United States and Canada, and now own like some 60 to 70%
the
of all of
Patel
the motels and
family. There's
hotels.
a really so there's a really good documentary on the Patels, and I think it was on Netflix. But yeah, I watched that, and yeah, the Patel family. It's almost like a decentralized royalty. It's wild.
Yes, totally. Well, they follow
very
these
interesting way to
investment
put it.
strategies that we're talking about right now. They take limited risk with a lot of upside. That's just the style of business structure. Now, our obviously, I don't think that. Well, they probably are invested in Bitcoin. In fact, I'm positive they're also
Probably.
invested in Bitcoin because the thesis is the same, and I think the family almost innately recognizes it. You know, I don't want to. The point of this is, you know, we have these moments where one culture will start to collapse, whether it's from crazy dictators, and this is kind of the problem right now, is that there are dictators or technocratic governments that rule their places by force, you know, and it's getting like Canada's fucking scares the shit out of me right now. Like, how are they able to get away with some of the stuff they're doing, like forcing people into quarantine hotels? Like, it's just so off kilter. Like, it just does. It's like it reeks. Like, it's such a. Anyways, I guess the point of this is yeah, I think it's a game of hopscotch freedoms. I think it's always been that way, and I think innovation tends to move, and innovative capital as well tends to move to these places where there are less rules and regulations where they can experiment. And look, as Elon Musk is like, okay, well, we're going from California to we're going to Texas, right?
Yep.
Just people move for freedoms. You know, I moved for freedom, and I will continue to move for more freedoms if we have to. I mean, I don't know. Just seems easier. The assets, whatever, we can make more money. We can make more. We can build more stuff. Like, it's
Well,
not
we're
a big
seeing
deal.
it kind of play out firsthand in Venezuela right now. You know, the government is, you know, oppressing the people. The people are illegally mining Bitcoin with their free electricity, and, you know, being kind of persecuted for getting caught mining Bitcoin. But that risk is, you know, just having the opportunity. I see the debate probably getting between, you know, not so much nations and their people, but between different nations. I think the hash power debate, the mining power, like that will probably start to come up in the mainstream as, you know, crypto becomes more of a dominant topic. Is, you know, 70% dominance in China for the mining power. Maybe the governments will just start fighting over mining dominance instead of banning Bitcoin. But I do want to, you know, ask what your thoughts might be on that, because, you know, you've been around as long as possible when it comes to this, and I've seen so many situations where it looks like, oh, great, crypto's finally legal, and then 2 months later it's illegal, and then it's like, I do not have the same feeling I think most people get when it comes to like the security of Bitcoin in future. When I hear Elon Musk, Tesla accepts Bitcoin for payment, that does not mean that they won't ban Bitcoin, right? Can we all like acknowledge that elephant that's in the room? Is like, the more we see the mainstream adopt it, doesn't mean necessarily that the government still won't ban it, because we've seen that play out in Dubai, we've seen it play out in China, and I think it's going to start to play out here in the US with a little bit of that cat and mouse.
Yeah. Oh, I think Dubai has been extraordinarily embracing of the new technology from what I hear.
But that was recent, yeah. But throughout the decade, they weren't always on that leg.
Right. Yeah. A lot of it's to do with regulation too. Like, you look at from a simpler risk perspective, you look at a company like PayPal, who you can't take out or move your Bitcoin because they're actually owning that custodial risk for you because of their insurance. I would assume it's probably because of their insurance, right? So instead of allowing you to be at risk for holding your own Bitcoin, they take that risk on for you to be able to manage their custodial accounts. But in terms of governments, I think that it's probably it's a bigger risk for the United States and for countries in general to not embrace it, because one of the thoughts that I've had about why they would embrace it, and you would see like you could call it the mining wars or some shit like this. That's a great name for it, but
Get George Lucas on it.
yeah, exactly.
It sounds like a movie from him.
It could be like Tron.
Is that going to start World War III? I mean, you think World War III is over mining?
Right. What do you think?
That's kind of what I've been holding back this question.
So something's definitely going to scare the planet again. Could more likely be an asteroid than World War III at this point.
If we can see
World War III doesn't make sense for the people who would want to have the wars, because it would be extraordinarily disrupting to the life that they enjoy. And I don't think that they want to. War.
Yeah, but aren't we? I mean, if
Cold
we're
War
already in
Twitter
deep
really
information war, we're definitely in a deep information.
Yeah.
That is clear.
The more
we're in wars that we don't realize.
The more relevant we make their money, the more of that incentive we're giving them. We're making them less comfortable in their way of life. We're incentivizing them maybe more. And this could be potentially that what he mentioned with like that third world war may not be government versus government, like a nuclear war threat, but it'd be like more of a revolution, like a worldwide revolution paradigm shift of every
that's what it looks like.
That's what I'm getting at. It's like,
but the growing pains would be
right versus left.
The people that are in power with money that don't want to lose that would be the growing pains. And that's the part that would be, where the revolution factor would have to come in, is that people they don't want to lose the comfort that they've established. It terrifies them as much as death.
So there's two things to come to mind here. Now, the idea of backhashing about the mining wars is that Bitcoin represents an opportunity for governments like this that don't inherently trust one another to actually trust one another, and that's a big fucking deal. Whether it's Bitcoin or any number of these other kind of sovereign trust states of code, they offer different various of risk, but if that's the case, then this might be the most likely adoption case for them, is because now they don't have to trust one another about how much RMB or USD has been printed and how much debt they have. They can have an open source where they can watch each other. They might choose that, right? Well, you might see more of an open monetary system, because then they can trust each other. As right now they can't. We have no idea who's printed how much or what. Like everything's totally fucking out of whack. Like it could be disastrous. Like this could be a disastrous moment. If they didn't start printing money in the pandemic, we would fucking have, you better have been buying horses at that point, right? And that's the crazy part, is that we don't have any great options in terms of how far we've come into our technological advancement. And I do believe that area that you're leaning into, Ken, is that this is actually much more an intellectual property war, most likely. And that the reason why there's probably been so much secrecy around any UFO shit that we have or know about has been because we don't know what the fuck the other team has or knows about as well. And we've been trying to race one another to who can figure it out. I don't think any side has figured it out yet. And that's kind of one of the interesting parts, is that, well, what happens? And this is kind of the mental like jousting, I think is entertaining, is, okay, well, if money is basically a store of value, and value is what we could consider the energy necessary to do something like get on a plane or to run the jet itself, like the fuel, effectively like the fuel, then what happens if we get to a point where we're almost capable of producing an infinite amount of energy? Now, I don't think we're right on that curve, but I think we're probably not far away from it as well. What happens if we get to a place, and the UN has brought stuff like this up. They're like in the Great Reset, like you won't own anything and you'll be happy. Well, a lot of people are saying that. Think about how many of us are more interested in the minimalist life. We're like, wait, I can go from house in Bali to a house over here, and then maybe an autonomous car is going to pick me up. And then maybe every time I book a car through Tesla, like imagine like this, right? Tesla's got autonomous driving cars in the future, like 5 years, 10 years in the future. And every time you open up your Tesla app, and each car is also basically like an NFT. So this unique identifier of a VIN number represents that car. And I book a ride with that car. And because I traveled X amount of miles on the Tesla app, I get like a Tesla token that represents my time on that ride share. And over time, I can maybe actually accumulate a fair amount of ownership in a car with doing nothing but driving in them effectively. So what happens then? Okay, well, can I buy a Tesla car up front? Can I earn the money that the Tesla car is making by making drives? And you start to see this decentralized future that I think is much more. We're one of the only species that hasn't figured out how to collaborate together. And a lot, like if you see a species like most of nature is collaborating together,
Yep.
right? And we are most likely, I think, on a verge of collaboration, but it probably comes through destruction to some degree. These systems are not obviously working anymore. Why the fuck do you need a passport to go from
Destruction
Canada to
is
the United States?
collaboration
Like,
in a way.
it's so stupid. Like, these borders are fucking meaningless. Like, how crazy is it that a company has to move jurisdictionally from California to Texas just because the laws are that much different? I think we've run into a point where we've overregulated and we've overextended our own ability to try to do stuff and to try to experiment. And this idea of, well, first off, from an investor standpoint, how do you take advantage of it? With such extraordinary growth, like infinite growth, like from a ham radio. Like, wait, hold on. I don't know. Actually, I don't even know how old you are. Ken, you're like 30, 33, 34, right?
I am. I'm 33.
Nice. When was your birthday?
November 1st.
Wait, does that make you a Scorpio?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
And I was born.
And
the
I'm
year of the
33
dragon.
and I'm October 1st. Ooh,
Oh, wait, that makes you a
we're
Libra?
weird. Yes.
On the cusp of Scorpio.
Yeah,
And
I'm very balanced. If I'm out of balance, it's crazy. Things get
Oh,
weird.
great.
I know, right?
I actually don't like astrology for astrology's sake. I like it for astrological sake. I'm a huge fan
same
of
thing.
stars. Is really what it
Same.
is. Yeah.
Same.
I'm like, where were the stars at when you were born? That sounds cool to me, man. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't need to get no woo-woo about it necessarily. I just like, we live in a goddamn universe. I try to respect that. We
Yeah.
often forget, like, geez, motherfucker.
We're all
No,
competing with each
the
other.
only thing that affects us is
It's-
what's right
we
here,
shouldn't be
right now, what
competing.
we can see and touch, even though we're in this infinite.
You're the only
expanded
you that you
universe.
know of. So just be you,
We'll enjoy that. Yeah, it's a fantastic time. I'm really excited that we can do things like this. The pandemic was a weird one. All the mistakes and all the triumphs that we've had.
We've learned so much, though. It's been kind of like, it's if you haven't lost your life or somebody near you hasn't lost their life, it's been actually like a really interesting renaissance period for each human individual, not just a society. I think like we've all been faced with so many of those important internal questions about life, death, the meaning of things. What does it mean to live a lifestyle that keeps me safe, but also delivers me enjoyment?
What's one of the interesting things of taking psychedelics is
and overthrowing communism.
Me, one of the keys for like taking psychedelics is like
every day.
What I mean is like a real deep dive trip is I walk away with an unshakable appreciation for life for just the sake of life itself. No longer am I, seeking more than what I've had other than, wow, I'm breathing in this moment. How amazing is that? I am alive. I feel like right now we've seen an entire world go through a trip. It was induced by a pandemic, which was induced by, this virus, but a lot of people, like Nathan said, had to come out of this trip with an acknowledgement of their own mortality, having that shaken up and appreciating the health that they have for the sake of the health for having it. I feel like, after seeing what an entire year of that can do to people, imagine a whole year-long deep psychedelic trip the entire planet is going through at the same time. There's a consciousness shift that is about to happen, and it gives me chills just thinking about what we're going to see happen to an entire civilization. Not just here in the Americas or thousands of years ago, we would see these social events that would paradigm shift the country. We're seeing this happen now as a global event. People are appreciating a lot more things now because they are diving deep into themselves and questioning mortality and appreciating the family members that have survived are still surviving. And to see what that's going to look like a year from now when we go back to that blissful, euphoric stage, dude. What is this going to do, to a lot of the control that we've seen implemented over the past 100 years, in civilized society? It's unprecedented.
On a side note, because I don't know a whole lot about the future, what I want to ask a question about the past.
Good point.
Are either of you fans of like Randall Carlson or Graham Hancock?
Yeah.
The kind of ancient civilization stuff that's out there.
I've listened to a few
I've read a lot about
Hancock,
Göbekli
podcasts.
Tepe and some of these things.
Yeah.
I'm pretty well versed.
Yeah, Graham's been on
their
Joe
work.
Rogan enough that I've listened to.
Yeah,
it.
I've learned basically everything through there. But no,
I've gone to the University of Rogan.
I think Graham has some cool theories on things, and a lot of it's probably accurate.
There's just an enormous amount of evidence, and what I like is the evidence, because even though it doesn't give us the exact story of whatever the fuck happened or how long ago, but it seems very obvious to me that there was an ancient civilization that had some pretty advanced technology for what they're able to create in terms of rock and stonework. Like today, we still can fucking not replicate what they did. Like they're clearly better at masonry than we are today. And it's mind boggling. There's a few people I like to watch that are not in like the broader spectrum, but one of the thoughts that we're talking about being in the stars and being grateful for being here. I think one of the things that's abstract too is our whole story here, I think, as a human civilization has been kind of lost and forgotten. I think we've been here actually a fuck ton longer, like maybe like 100,000 years longer, and maybe not more advanced, but like advanced maybe to a significant degree. We don't know. We can tell to at least one degree they were better at shit than we are today, specifically in stonemasonry, because that's the only thing we see that survived. The other thing I find really fun is that whereabouts in the world are you right now, aside from Rick's garage?
This is New Jersey.
Okay, so with where you're sitting right now, 13,000 years ago was under fucking 2 miles of ice. 2 miles of ice just 13,000 years ago, and in a very short period of time, all that ice melted, and there's evidence of these massive cataclysmic floods all the way throughout the north of Canada and the United States. You see all these boulders that are like thrown on top of one another.
Everything moved.
I love this idea of the longevity of the human history, because even though I can't see into the future, I can kind of see a little bit of where we may have been, and it may not have even started on this fucking planet. So I'm really interested to see. Okay, here's another fun one.
We forgot our history.
Did you see this Pentagon UFO stuff that they're releasing in the next few months?
I've seen it from the Navy as well, and the Air Force. They've all been military have been releasing official, and I don't think they're calling them UFOs anymore. Have you seen that? I think they're
aerial phenomenon.
UAOs or something.
UAPs.
UAP. Yeah, that's what it's called.
Do you think it's a big deal that the Navy is actually doing it, or do you think it's just kind of blow over?
I think it's scare tactics in some ways, because we're the only governments really releasing official videos of this at a time of like international turmoil and tensions with China.
It could be an interesting form of propaganda.
Russia.
Yeah,
I think it's an interesting form of propaganda, because we're just saying like, hey, this is official video, wink, wink, leading others to possibly believe that that's our technology. And
now China thinks we have spaceships, and like you mentioned earlier, what do they know that we don't know, and what do they have? And
it's just propaganda.
Is it though? See,
it could. But I think it's funny. I hope it's not.
That's the fun part. People have brought these conversations like, well, no, there's been no obvious contact. It's like, I don't know that that's the case.
Well, the thing was,
and I said all that to say that we don't know, though. I just wanted to get rid of the negative part first, right? And now I have the fun part.
We're being desensitized to it, indoctrinated into it with the way the media has been portrayed, and the way a lot of things have been going. It's almost like, even if there was a UFO outside of New York City right now, it'd be like, all right, I saw that in Marvel in 4K.
Think about the scientific implications of what the U.S. Navy and the Pentagon has now said. The U.S. Navy and the Pentagon has now said we have tracked multiple vehicles over multiple days in different spaces that represent characteristics within our environment that do not match our current level of physics. That they're basically saying, look, guys, what you think is wrong. We don't know what the answer is, but they're saying academia in the world of physics is wrong. And the guy that worked at the Pentagon for ATIP says, look, this is probably closer to what we're seeing in quantum physics and metaphysics, and the world and the way we think about physics and energy are not the same. And so what happens to the world of value and money if all of a sudden you can create a ship that can, or that have something that creates this infinite level of energy? It's another massive deflationary event. You know, like the cost of flying comes down to nothing. And not only that, the time frame. Think about it. If I could fly to Bali right now in a second, how much do I got to spend? Like, you tell me.
Depends. How much did the machine cost for you to get access to?
Here's the thing, though.
Is it permission based?
If
I don't think they actually know how to use it. I don't think
would you want to wait like
I think
10
that's why they're
minutes for a
saying that.
transaction?
I think that what they're doing is by going through this, they're going to slowly get to the idea. They're like, not only do we know that they've had this technology, we've been holding it. The Chinese have not figured it out. It's not theirs. And in 20, 30 years, I don't think they've been able to figure out what the fuck that they have. And they probably have small scale working versions. And what's the best way to do it? Be a little psychedelic and go open source. It clearly works. The Navy might be trying to open source intellectual property. And I think, like, so back to our war thought, I think it's a war over intellectual property. Who the fuck figures out anti-gravity and how to bend physics first?
Well, that's definitely
the race is on.
If you find 0-point energy, anti-gravity, any of these things, even invisibility, teleportation, like anything that people kind of know is possible, but
with the Hydro Collider, we are definitely experimenting with full-blown alchemy. You know, there's a lot of tests that have been done in China where they're like, hey, guess what? We can make gold out of
We're just afraid to call it magic, but it is. I mean,
so it's this is the kind of the fun part. I think that we have an ancient astral story here, and I think that it's probably not a new thing that we maybe get to go interstellar. They're like, oh, well, they're already flying to the moon and maybe to Mars. Okay, we'll jumpstart them. Throw them the crypto first. We'll come down later.
Give them the Bitcoins.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, if there is like a global.
So is Hal Finney an alien?
Absolutely.
So here, crazy shit.
He resurrected. Right? He didn't actually die.
In 2013, the Minister of Canadian Defense, very well recognized guy, background in mathematics and science, right? Worked for the military for his entire fucking life. Comes out and says, look, now that I don't work for the government, I'm not behind any things that I can't not say what I know. He's like, there are multiple species of aliens that visit this planet regularly. He's like, our governments have been in contact with them, although most of them are probably not under, like, they're under a need to know. And what the fuck kind of nonsense would you unleash into a planet if all of a sudden like 8 aliens showed up and like, yeah, we've been flying around like stealing your water because we need it, and you know, we think you guys are great, we're scared you might blow us up too, so we've been very hesitant
or
to like, drop
we would
in.
destroy us ourselves and take out
a
resource that they need. But I mean,
yeah, with the technology, like we were scared to give you the tech because you're already blowing shit up with like just early stages of understanding what physics can do, you know, like, so we're trying, how do we intervene? Who knows? I have no idea.
Well, I mean, you can look at how governments approach civilizations that we discover on island landmasses that have been gone without the, you know, there's still a few civilizations that have nothing to do with the outside worlds, because we know if we even introduced ourselves to them that we would destroy them. They wouldn't even survive because they would either get sick by like something that we had that they were never exposed to. Even if we gave them antibiotics, how would that affect them now at this point? We now know as like us today, our governments know how to approach civilizations that have never been touched outside of their own little ecosystems. Imagine the intelligence that, you know, any extraterrestrial life would have when approaching us very cautiously.
Yeah.
Well, we're trying to stop like the ripples in the water by touching them and stopping them. Like there's not a lot we can do by actually directly interacting at this point anyway, in some ways. I think like we would have to figure out at first the trial and error process of like, all right, am I going to get a disease here? Is there
maybe that's what the global vaccination is? They're trying to get
maybe that's what COVID is. But here's another thing.
Black came out with COVID-19.
Well, here's another thing. I think I've heard this analogy somewhere. I can't remember where, but if you give like a nuclear reactor to people in like the medieval times and go figure this out, like it might have been like Bob Lazar that said that actually, and it would be like dangerous to even interact with it because they don't even understand radiation or anything for that matter.
Oh no, we lost. Oh wait, he's here. We lost him, but he's here.
He's here.
There you
go. No, wait, there I am.
There he is. He wanted to just trip us.
Technical difficulties. That's what it is. I love these kind of thought exercises.
Yeah, it's fun. Like you said, it's like mental jousting, but on a harmless way. Where as long as everybody's having fun, we're actually progressing.
Yeah, we're starting a cartoon podcast where
Yeah,
when you
somebody
come
in
on
the
the
chat
show.
went nuts when you said that. They're like, "Wait, what? Like 3 times." So if you want to let them know a little bit more about that,
Yes.
Okay, so if you go to, can I screen share? Is that a thing?
yeah, let me do that. I have to. Yep,
Just
now you
shut
can.
anything that
Okay,
might
so
not want
what laptop am I on? Do I have all of the content here? Let's see, Space Chats. So if you go to YouTube, it's called Space Chats. You can preemptively sign up. I want to give a big shout out to the guys that are helping us create this, because it's their genius that's really helping kind of lead this. So these are our first character sketches. So this is done by a gentleman named Nestor Tomaselli, Nesto Maselli on Instagram, and then Brain Fluid Studios Brain Fluid Studios are helping with the creation of it as well. So these are some of our rough. Oh, hold on, I didn't mean to stop that there.
I shared the link in the chat for everybody.
Okay, so this was a rough draft. We were actually probably going to roll around in an RV from now on, but this was kind of the first idea, kind of first renditions. Some of the different characters and what they would look like as we brought them on. So Ken, you could come on and you would be a cartoon Ken effectively.
Please.
Yeah. So we're working on how to do that. There's a fairly high upfront cost to building some of the, you probably want to see that too. Things are going up. Everything's looking good. Green and gravy. Awesome. It's not what I meant to go to. So if I have the rough versions here? No, I do not. Okay.
I just love that your desktop is as messy as mine, and I have also noticed, it's just it's organized. It's organized, but it's in chaos, and that's how mine looks. It's organized chaos.
There's an interesting a pattern, but not a pattern. I don't know.
Yeah, no, there's a pattern there for sure.
Yeah, I can see it. It's just I don't know if everybody. I'm very disorganized, so I see weird.
Oh well, here, see, there's the more rando stuff ends up right here. Oh no, you can't open that one. This instantly makes it.
There goes my YouTube channel.
Yeah, hold on. These ones are not X-rated. I like to take photos in my spare time.
I can only imagine. That's a good photo though.
I love the reflection.
That's an awesome photo.
Oh yeah. Well, once I started doing the YouTube stuff, I started to fall in love with the camera, like trying to make videos and stuff like this, and just play around with learning the technology. I guess learning a new instrument to some degree. So the photos have been kind of a fun one, and you find a good subject or good subjects to go hang out with the day. You're like, hey, let's go shoot some photos. There's some really fun ones. These are definitely the better ones. But yeah, no. So there's the kind of random stuff that happened today. There's usually business stuff, books and reading and writing, and then more random stuff on the right hand corner is work related.
Marshmallows where my eyes went immediately.
So yeah, if you go to Space Chats, we don't have anything posted yet, but we're just kind of gearing up. It's a production process to kind of get everything in line. But one of the reasons why I wanted to do this is I think it's amazing, but B, it's kind of hard to have these abstract and outlandish conversations. And if you look at my YouTube channel in the early days, I loved having podcasts. I love doing stuff like this. I love just fucking talking and finding out where we go with no predetermined destination. It's like, let's have a chat in space, motherfuckers. We're flying on planet Earth. So there's this kind of evolution in the early days where I had people like Cliff High, I had Thomas Campbell, we had Bruce Lipton. It's a really kind of out of the box thinkers. And I had a plasma physicist, a solar physicist come on the show, people who had studied their life in weird spaces, and had some interesting stuff to say. And it's kind of difficult when you have a person-to-person conversation, because often people will, like Joe Rogan, they'll be like, oh, they're trying to take him seriously. It's like, well, why are you taking this guy seriously? He's not to be taken seriously. He's just talking shit.
He's a comedian.
You should understand that. And I really, and again, what I like about our culture is that we have this, we should have more reverence for this open source conversation and its importance in our culture, because there are a lot of cultures you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to talk shit. But the cartoon uniquely gives us a perspective where if you show up and you're watching a cartoon, you're like, and all of a sudden, like this frigging duck is talking, right? And you take the duck seriously. That's clearly your fault.
I love the analogy.
Yeah,
I do feel like a talking duck half the time. It's like.
And some of these concepts you'd have to illustrate for people almost anyway, or at least provide some sort of visual aid. And I think that would be kind of cool to do it. And if it's a fun, trippy way,
We're starting off relatively simple to streamline the process. We for instance, we want to have Ken on the show or something. we're looking at really what's the cost of production per episode to keep that as low as possible, and then to streamline it to go, okay, well, what happens if we, go this unique route to try to get someone on the show? What if we create an NFT for each character that we bring on, and then we sell that NFT to help fund the episode? We're just kind of playing around with some of the loose
I would
episodes.
100% make NFTs out of the art you were just
It'd be
showing
interesting
me.
if you do like
he's so
4 or
good,
5
right?
NFTs,
Hold on
and
a
whichever
sec.
one gets bought most, like that's the one you do the episode with.
So you can go to Instagram and follow us too. But I want to show you, I want to highlight Nestor's work just because he's such a gangster.
I will post this out here publicly, and just to make you and everybody watching aware, is you never want to share any art that you're going to make into an NFT until you've already put it on the blockchain. Or
those all have watermarks and stuff.
Okay,
on it
yeah.
as well,
Say, or at least have it on IPFS and have proof that you've uploaded it to the IPFS. But yeah, I don't I don't like anybody sharing art if they think about making it into an NFT before it's already been done, because there's assholes out there.
What we were thinking about doing, we're thinking about doing more collaborative routes that don't just involve the art being the NFT, which is a bit more of like an abstraction. Like we had Chantel on the show the other day, and she wasn't selling art. Her NFTs were, if you come on and you buy this NFT, we'll put your character in our next album, and you get to buy like a front space in our album sitting on with us with the couch, or I'll put your name in this song because it needs a name. So she's found this kind of fun route to offer these interactive experiences with the audience, and that's probably the route we're more likely related to going down that time.
Yeah, social goods and services, utility.
Yeah, well, something fun where if you buy this NFT, maybe you will put your name in the credits as well. It's not just the art piece. It would be a relationship with the story of the podcast. So we're looking at kind of fun ways to experiment. So you're going to help us launch all these NFTs to sell?
Yeah, 100%.
I'm joking.
No, I'm not, because dude, I pride myself on, the advising role and consulting roles that I kind of like fell into with NFTs. I've helped a lot of people and a lot of projects with strategies that, just they've like, oh, wow, I've never thought of that. Or it's just like, it's not something I even charge for, bro. I just like spare time, talk to people. And I've seen the amount of help that I've been able to provide. So if there's anything that I could do to like, as far as like strategy wise, or just spitball ideas on how you could utilize this, I'm all for it.
Here's the thing. Our first few episodes, we're probably going to charge our guests, because the guests are people that are my friends. So we can because we'll make you a custom character. So I co-founded a company called Rivers of the Sky, which does impact marketing for bigger brands back in 2019. But anyways, I've been trying to tell him about this stuff for a while. So he's like, great, sign me up. Like, where do I buy a character? Like, because for me, it's a long-term bid at a particular niche and function. Mm-hmm. So we're going to keep it really closed loop and in-house, just because our upfront costs are much higher in the early days. So it'll be fun. That's why we're going the kind of fund the character route for people that we work with, because we think it's a unique way to build the podcast as well in the early days. With like if you looked, it was the crypto, like it'll be an Ethereum cruiser, early Ethereum RV maybe this time, because we think we need a bigger space to hang out in.
A bus maybe.
Yeah, like some hippie bus with bikes on the top. It's like
that'd be cool.
Farting like rainbow dust, It's gonna be ridiculous. Like,
what were the Volkswagen buses? Awesome. They were just called the Volkswagen bus.
Yeah. The microbus.
Yeah, the microbuses.
Yeah.
I grew up like you with, well, maybe not Rick and Morty, but like Ren and Stimpy.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah, we had that.
That's my childhood, man. I keep telling people
that's what ruined us.
When it comes to my podcast, my biggest inspiration in life might have been Space Ghost Coast to Coast.
Oh shit!
That was my biggest inspiration, and then Joe
Zorak
Rogan,
was my shit.
He kind of reignited that whole thing. Where like I remember when I was like very, very young watching Space Ghost, and I'm like, I want to do that. And then Joe Rogan in my 20s, and I'm like, yo, I'd still want to do that. So I decided to start to do that, and when you mentioned the cartoon podcast, which is funny, I literally had a meeting with a production company the other day about getting a cartoon show, an interview show, like short format, 15 minutes where I interview people and we're just cartoons talking.
Yeah, if hold on and check these.
Just make it happen, dude, because I want you on a cartoon all the time.
I just want to become a cartoon, man. I'm done with this.
I just want to see it. Like, I don't know. I'm kind of
Well,
weird like that.
I've got an avenue to do that. Here, check out some of the. These are some of the other side sketches we've done because I've been playing. I've been playing around for a little while. These are fun. So if you go to Twitter, I have a Twitter account. I don't do much useful stuff on the Twitter world, but yeah, here these are some of the more like regular looking, just like faster versions. Shout out to Freddy Octopus for this one. Do you guys know who Cliff High is?
Yeah.
So this is one we did for Cliff High, just for fun. Let's listen what he says.
Take care, because those damn energies from space are going to get all of us. So when you see the balls, by the way, the goal is to do it between 10 and 3 in the afternoon, 10 a.m. and 3 in the afternoon. Go out and dangle, somewhere where you can't be seen, and have a good fucking excuse if you are. Have a
Anyways.
That's awesome. Yeah. Let it go. That's so good.
Yeah.
See, that would be an NFT.
I love that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, seriously. Like, that's an NFT right there.
What I would do is auction them
amazing.
off as mint one of ones or something and just, have fun with it. I do a lot of $1 NFTs, and I've done fairly well just selling them for $1.
I'd pay $1,000 for that,
Yeah,
but I'm weird.
Nice. Okay, that's what I want to hear. I'm much more a high value, because generally what we're looking at, like for instance, let's say Bruce Lipton, some of my earlier episodes, Bruce Lipton I like to get him on as a guest. We're going to get like maybe 10 to 100,000 views for the video. So we've got this much revenue from view count, and it's going to cost about this much, take about this much time. And we're still in the early stages to build it. So we're just trying to measure what's our most cost effective way to production on a like a kind of a weekly or maybe a bi-weekly basis, because the cost in producing this stuff can jack up pretty quickly if you're always changing. So we were thinking about like maybe even being able to have we would maybe the car would drive by a space banner, like a company could buy an ad spot via the NFT for an episode or two, and it'd be
That's
like a burnable
smart. I
NFT.
like that.
Yeah.
So just kind of messing around in the early
That's
days with the
cool.
crypto sector, because I think the artwork that Nestor has done for us in Brain Fluid Studios is almost more of a seller than me as a conversationalist and Alex Kushner from Icon Media. So we're starting the basis. We've got access to a bunch of people we think will
Well,
make
that
great
interest
guests.
is obviously there. People use Patreon for the same fulfillment that you're talking about, with having something in the background with a sponsor. People use Patreon.
Right.
If you're like $1,000 a month Patreon donator, you sponsor the podcast or the episode or something.
Right.
Usually
Yeah.
they'll have that displayed permanently on the screen. And if you're like $100 a month Patreon member, they have like the credits at the end of every podcast.
Awesome. Yeah.
There's
yeah.
so much, there's, and that interest is there, whether it is maybe corporations that want to get promotional marketing on a show, or your fans that are just audience members who think, it'd be really funny if I just got my name put up there, where like yesterday it said Coinbase. It said Coinbase yesterday. Guess what? It's going to say Ken Bozak today, just because it's funny. And because of that open source ability through like either that Patreon or now truly opening it to the NFT side of things, where maybe 10 people in a group chat can come together, buy that NFT, and just have like a funny meme up there, just because like they can contribute as a group, as a collective, to support the project and get a really cool gamified reward out of it. Doing this with NFTs it's opening the entire world that already wants to do this, but only very few can, with the outlets like Patreon.
Yeah, and back to our experimentation process earlier is how do we, part of the reason why I'm doing the podcast is because I want to experiment. I had to cut off my conversations. Like I had Dr. Rick Strassman on the show, the guy who wrote DMT, the Spirit Molecule. And in the middle of the bull market, I couldn't post it. I'm like, I'm just going to lose subscribers to the Arcane Bear if I post this right now, because a lot of people don't understand what the fuck I'm talking about. I need a channel, or like, so I've been on this kind of mission to find a way to have this alternative place of thought.
Fucking genius, dude. I've been talking to artists in the same exact light. Like, you have so much different art that you may be cluttering your NFT marketplaces. Open multiple stores under multiple names, just like you have multiple streams of content. Maybe you have multiple streams of mediums to produce.
Find out which one works best.
Yep.
Yeah, branding is hyper important. Like, and again, for us, that's one of the most unique aspects is we have someone who's so fucking good at this cartoon level stuff. Like, I was blown away because we had our first like kind of quick call. We'll go back to some of like, are these might not be watermarked. Are these watermarked?
That's why I mentioned it.
Yeah, that one's not. That's okay. I'm sure it'll be fine. We'll figure it out. If they get ahead, I'm sure that won't happen. It's pretty hard to beat us to the punch. But anyways, where are we going? Oh yeah. So just in general, I think the art is so well done. Even if it's not on an NFT basis, I think that the community support of it will be so well. Like, I mean, yeah, I love having conversations. We love having conversations with cool people, but that art, it just drags me in because it reminds me of things like Adventure Time with Finn and Jake. It reminds me of things like Rick and Morty. And then all of a sudden you put these characters having real everyday conversations while they're flying around. I'm like, oh my God, like we've got it. We've put it together. Yeah.
It's like what's that shit? Interviews with with what is it? Seinfeld, Cars and Coffee or something.
Comedians in cars getting coffee.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. It would be like stoners and spaceships getting
Stoners and
shitcoins.
spaceships.
Well,
Doing DMT.
Well, we think it's we think it's adaptable too. Like for instance, I would love to have a conversation with Paul Stamets. I've read almost every
Mushroom
one of his
expert.
books now. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Paul Stamets.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of back in 2017, we had a Russian solar physicist come on the show and talk about our misunderstanding of how we are viewing the solar system. So most of us think about the solar system as the sun in the center and boringly like all the planets go around in this kind of static fashion. And we recently found out this is actually not the case, that the sun is moving like ahead of time, like almost through infinite space.
Yep.
So we trail behind it a little bit. And because of that, that's why we see Mercury can go retrograde, which means it looks like it's spinning the opposite way because of the unique, the fact that we're behind the sun effectively.
I think they call it the corkscrew model, right?
Something like this, yeah. And so she's been studying the changes of the sunspots on the sun and talking about how the sun's vibration has these bigger cycles, and she thinks that we're likely headed towards an ice age, or at least some type of noticeable decrease in temperature over the next 10 to 100 years because of this potential cycle change. And I love having these but it was so detrimental to me. Like, okay, well, look, I'm a fairly like a well-versed researcher, right? That's why I like reading books and making investments in these unique technological things. But more importantly, I actually just like researching interesting things that are kind of far out of the box. And sometimes that means you end up researching stuff that sounds ridiculous, but there's a lot of merit to pursuing things that sound and appear ridiculous. And I think that too often, you know, the scientific and academia community just got shoved into this pigeonhole. But I don't need to. I'm not an academic. My capital doesn't come from anywhere near the schooling system.
Yeah.
So we can talk shit. We can build our, continue to pursue my intellectual interests or my humanities interests. I want to keep talking with people. And I hit a point with Arcane Bear where it was more valuable to the community for me to leave it focused on venture capital and what to do to be a good investor, because people started making so much money off of these theses. I'm like, okay, well, let's just leave that as it is. Then we'll kind of pivot and so now we have space jets.
I love it. It brought
just
new
like you said,
life.
because branding.
And it also created a whole new life. It's alive. It's a living thing. It's you just created a whole new life form, bro. And maybe, what was I just, dude, there was something I was just, what's his name? Give me 1 second. Oh, why am I brain farting? I was just going to say something.
Yes.
How it happens.
Well, I'm trying to remember that I know I have to let Nathan go like right now. So I'm trying to.
Oh, no, they canceled.
Oh, great. But,
yeah.
This is going to bother me. Nathan, say something.
So what everybody needs to remember is just meditate at least 20 minutes every morning before you start your day. Get up, re-wake up the correct way. You know what I'm saying? And then just go out, preferably jog, but if you don't feel like it, walk. Do this for about an hour. Drink water afterwards. And then microdose some mushrooms, have some coffee, and do some reading. I think this is going to be the best path for all of you.
None of this is health or financial advice, by the way.
Right? And you should have invested in Anchor a year ago, like I did. I mean, they've done some crazy stuff. That's one of my giant ANKR, that one.
And if you haven't heard, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is pretty much right now. Just follow that limited risk investment thesis that Dundau investors have lived by.
Seriously.
And you'll do fine. Yeah. Be patient.
You can't go wrong with that.
Don't sell your assets. plebs. Just go work at McDonald's if you need a job to cover
I
your rent
remembered
and
what I
bills.
was going to say as
Seriously.
soon as I hit the bong, and I'm so proud of myself. Have you seen
I just needed to smoke more. I
what
see.
Spirit Science has been doing?
Who?
Spirit Science. I don't know if that's anything that you follow. They're
Oh,
a
is this
content platform on YouTube, and they have like a live streaming medium. I mean, it's just content that I kind of resonate with, talking a lot about like, you know, like that spirit science, but kind of found a weird like benefit to this conversation of spirit science. A lot of the followers have been applying it to finance and have had like some of the like most life-changing stories I've ever read in a spirit science like thread. And it's just become some like spirit science finance thing that it's just manifested into, because the correlation of like the mindset seemed to correlate with the movements. You know, people are applying to finance with spirit science. I didn't know if that was something that you followed. But
It reminded me of one of the things one of the stories I wanted to tell you before we decided to just wait and press record, which was in 2019. I had the pleasure of meeting Naval Ravikant. I was out. We were at an ecstatic dance. I was hanging out with a good friend of mine, and I recognized him. Out of probably very few people, I think, would recognize Naval, although he does have a lot of Twitter followers, and you should follow him on Twitter. We ended up hanging out, chatting. He's like, "Look, I got a challenge for you." He's like, "You do 30 days of meditation, an hour every day. You wake up, you brush teeth, you wash face, you know, you get yourself like ready, and then you sit down, you close your eyes, you do that for an hour. Do that for an hour every day in 30 days, and then basically call me or something like that." It's like, okay, cool, I'll do that. I'll call you in 30 days then, I guess, because this gives me the opportunity to have a reason to call you. I have to accomplish this mission to motherfucking call the ball, right? Like, this is my duty, right? I got to pay right now. So I'm like, okay, I accept the challenge. Like, so I start meditating every day for about an hour a day. Sometimes I fucked up the morning, probably only once or twice. And I would do it in the evening just to be like, dude, you didn't do it. Like you said you would do it. Don't be a bitch now. Like, okay, fine. So I just got to sit there. I don't got to lift weights. I don't got to work hard. Like,
somehow
it's just
it feels
sitting
the
there,
same
like,
though, doesn't
bitch.
it?
Like,
Meditating and going to the gym are very similar.
That's why I said he likes both sides of it earlier when you asked that question. Because if you meditate, you love simultaneously torturing yourself and finding peace.
What was that experience like though, meditating for 30 days, you know, consistently?
Well, it had a really big payoff.
Crazy.
First off, I miss it. I should be doing it every day at that kind of base minimum of an hour, because I think that's where the sweet spots kind of start to happen. But I go through the first 30 days, and there are noticeable changes. I think mostly it got a lot easier. I think the first 5 to 7 days were like, oh my God, this is
Noisy.
difficult. Like I had a timer, so I knew when I was getting at the hour mark, and I would open my eyes. I'm like, 20 minutes. What the fuck is this? Like 40, 50 minutes, you know, so you get caught in opening your eyes. And then the further I'd go, I would not open my eyes for the whole hour. I wouldn't open my eyes until like the dinger started, and later on into the process. But it was, 30 days in, I call Naval. I'm like, look, I did my 30 days. It's been amazing. I feel great. And this is kind of one of the offsets, is that uniquely, if you talk to a lot of really talented investors, people that have done really well financially, that you have more free time to do stuff. So what do? A lot of them spend more time meditating and more time reading quite often, which is not too dissimilar, or walking. I love walking my dogs on the beach. It's like a moving meditation, but you spend a lot more time giving yourself the space to kind of go through your thoughts and think, and knowing that you only need to make one good action every 5 years to make a lot of money potentially, right? So you know the consequences of just basically chilling out, taking your time, and going through your process. So I got to the 30-day mark. I call him up, and he's like, yo, well, tell you what, come out and hang out with us. So I was blessed by a Swami that kind of helped lead Naval's groups. But more importantly, I started to have these really big breakthrough moments like a little bit deeper into it. So every morning I would go and I would meet up with Naval and his friend, like Nivi, the guy who helps him host his podcast, and an amazing group of people that he was surrounded by. And we'd sit for like an hour, and we'd get to the, you know, so we do the morning and the afternoon, and in the morning we do like an hour. And the first day I sat, I opened my eyes like at the hour mark. Like the kind of leader of the group says, you know, we've hit the hour mark. This is when you can leave if you want to. If you have other things you need to go do for the day, but this is the hour mark. And then there would be like the 2 or 3 other gangsters who wouldn't leave. So I'm like, well, I ain't got nothing to do right now but be here for damn sure. I was like, as long as these guys have their eyes closed, I'm staying. Like, I'm going to try to stay in as deep as deep as we can go. And there were days where we were 2 hours, 30 minutes in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon. I'm fucking sitting closed eye
Man, they're
meditation
just
for
taking
4
naps,
hours a day.
bro. They're taking
No,
naps.
well, here's what's crazy is that the mind has these
Conscious
really
nap.
Yeah.
lucid
I know, just
opening.
teasing.
Yeah, it's a lucid nap. The mind has this really like freeing moment where it's basically done thinking.
Yep.
It's like, oh, I've exhausted my ability to think, because when you're moving, you're coordinating, you're not really thinking either. Like, as I'm talking to you right now, I don't even have the conscious capacity to think about what the fuck I'm saying, because then I'd stumble up and screw whatever the fuck I was trying to say right out of the pigeonhole, because I'm getting in the way. Right. So often when we're not actually thinking a whole lot either. And these very few times when you sit down, you close your eyes and you stop, the mind is like trying to get its shit out. And the further I went down this process, there became nothing, or to some degree. And I think a lot of the fun of the meditation is that don't go into it thinking I need to think about nothing. Just let whatever the hell happens, and let that be kind of, Naval, I think, explained it very well by saying it's like going through your email inbox. And when you first sit down for these chunks, you've got all this stuff to deal with and things that you need to do. And you'll think about it and you'll action it. And you'll think about it and then you'll action it. So for me, I agree with this meditation level. I actually am jealous that I don't have a group of friends that want to do that again every day, because it was a level of
Same.
accountability that there's no fucking way I would ever keep up with by myself. Which is that when you know that there's other people, like other gangsters sitting there, like with their eyes closed, like, well, if he doesn't have to do anything right now, like I know I don't either. And that's like such an enriching part, like moment. Again, I don't pursue, like, I'm not interested in getting on a yacht for no particular reason. Like, if we're gonna go do something with a group of friends, like, okay, great, we'll take the yacht out. But I like sitting and doing nothing and just letting this conscious experience kind of like bestow the wealth of just being, like we were talking about. The fact that we're just alive is such a engrossing experience, and we very rarely to stop that. So I love that, because it reminds me of going to the gym. You go to the gym, right? You go to or maybe you don't. I don't know.
I did. I used to. Look, man. I am very comfortable in seasonal mentalities. I jump in and out of mentalities. I jump in and out of habits. I'm not a consistent, complacent person. I love shaking things up. I've gone to the gym, and I used to run 5K every single day. Like, that was nothing I loved more than running for like 3.5 miles every single day.
Perfect.
And I got to
it's
a point
kind
where
of jam.
I'm not at that rate. And I know I can if it comes back to me, but I don't want to force it. I go with it very naturally. Right. I need to miss it. When I start to miss something, I love that feeling. And then going back after it. Yeah. I love ice baths.
I'm a big Wim Hof guy.
Dude, I used to do 100 squats every single day before the 5K. Not joking. 100 squats, then run a 5K.
Dude, people think they're tough, but they can't even turn that shower nozzle to cold, let alone getting like a bath of ice. Like,
you want
think
a
you're tough
life-changing
until
experience that won't cost you anything? Get a cold shower in the morning instead of a hot shower. That'll
just a contrast, even like it's good enough for some people,
Well, so you asked about discomfort, and there is a level of discomfort I like. I think from a thesis standpoint, I appreciate those things that have a more raw, primitive feature. Like I celebrate by starting a fucking fire. Like I'm pretty simple in my desires from like how I appreciate life. I'm like, great, there's a full moon. Like, we're throwing down, we're cutting some firewood today, motherfuckers. Like, and I think that's important. Like you've said, is that you lean into what you like. When you liked running, and then you move on, you try some new things, and in the future, like running again.
You know how little I played video games when I ran? You know how much I play video games now? A lot more. So again, I just hopscotch.
Well, the bull market too. Everyone in the bull market's fucking needs to do more leg days. I tell you that. That's what
my legs are weak.
The bull market is not a leg. It's like you take it's a leg, it's leap year or some shit. Like, oh my God, I got no leg exercises done this year.
I think they came out with a
Standing desk.
a sitting treadmill though, so you can sit at your desk and like do leg treadmill.
Oh, come on.
That
You're just
exists
kicky
now.
footing a wheelchair.
It exists now though, and people have like little bicycles that like it's just a little thing, and they ride a bike, but it's right underneath their computer chair. I don't know.
I honestly have like a spin bike,
But you're
that
not
I'll
wrong.
put my laptop on
I've
the
looked
top
into
of
it just because of this bull run. I'm just like, I need to stop sitting so much and
Dude,
staring at this
join a
chart.
fighting gym, like a kickboxing gym.
Yeah, they just opened jiu-jitsu in my area, and he's bringing a nice bath. I personally, I miss Bali. Like
Okay.
I had the sign that I'm supposed to go to Indonesia this morning. I was like, I woke
Do
up,
it.
I'm like, okay, I really, you got to be specific, right? We're talking about like what we like and what we don't like. I've found some of the things that I really like in life, so I'm going to pursue them. But they're definitely, I think, over in Indonesia.
I've always wanted to go to Thailand, and like when I was trained to be a kickboxer, my dream was to just like move to Thailand and just like get my ass kicked every day for the rest of my life. But there's something so simplistic about that like it felt beautiful at the time. Now it seems kind of crazy, but like I didn't care, and like I often find myself seeking that feeling again, and probably the only way to ever get it would be to actually like become a savage again, like move to Thailand, go to like Tiger Muay Thai and just like live there,
Hey,
like
Nathan, guess what?
I get excited just talking about it.
I love you.
Yeah.
I love you more, dude. No, but like that's something that's meditative too. It's not violence.
Oh, dude,
it's
I
like
wanted to mention
there's a
this.
level of learning about yourself and finding like how you react to danger and how you posture yourself when you actually don't know what you're doing, and like
Right. Yeah.
it's a lot like investing, honestly.
When you were talking a little while ago about like walking the dog to meditate or whatever, I really like it. That hit me because I don't really mention this. I've definitely mentioned it before, but it's definitely not something whatever. But I find something very meditative about doing the dishes.
It is.
There's something just
sweeping
so,
too.
Yeah, cleaning.
You get like
Something-
horse stance, like you get like all squatted down and sweep. You're like, I'm sweeping, motherfucker. That's right.
Yeah,
It's similar to
I
meditation
don't know.
in itself too, because if you don't do it often, it'll pile up. So it's
Well, I
like
think-
meditating is like sweeping your floor. If you're not always sweeping your floor every day, hair, dead flies, food are gonna get all over it. Just like the inside of your soul, like when you're not meditating, you gotta
Okay,
sweep.
wait, hold on. I have to confess, I have someone who actually comes and cleans the house every week too.
Oh,
I don't like
look at
sweeping.
you,
I
you
want to make
have
sure I
to.
don't like sweeping that much, but no,
We
there's
need you
I think there's-
See,
meditating
that's the thing.
hours.
I actually would. I couldn't delegate that because I do enjoy it too much. Like it's one of those things that like you would look forward to meditating for an hour. I do kind of look forward to cleaning up in the morning after making a mess overnight, like staying.
Ken
up
cooked
late.
me food several times. I mean, it was- seriously,
No, Ken cooks.
Ken's like
I like food.
he's like the most gracious host that you will ever meet in your life. Like I
Okay, well,
got
I'm not
there,
legally
he
allowed
had
in the
food
States,
ready
Ken,
for
so
me.
I'm not
He had
coming to
like a
visit.
bed. It
I'm
was
not
there
amazing.
legally allowed in one of them, so I feel you.
Okay, Mexico's allowed. Costa Rica I can do.
I can do
Dubai,
Canada
Indonesia.
whenever they open up the borders again.
I'm
yeah.
from Canada and I do
I
not
would
want to
take
go
it
I
back
easy
don't
there.
want
there,
to go
dude.
back there.
I'm scared of
I know a
Canada.
bunch of people there, and they're kind of.
I just want to go back to Quebec. When I
I'm
was in
dearly worried
Quebec,
for
dude-
Canada. No, we
Same.
are in
I know
a
tons of
war
people in
still.
Toronto.
Yeah, no,
we're
you're right.
definitely in a
Canada's
war still. Like
crazy.
I don't think maybe it's because we don't recognize that we're in a war that
Yep.
that's more dangerous.
It's been so long,
Like,
nobody
what-
knows what it looks like anymore.
They're telling people the Canadian government arbitrarily told the people they couldn't fly somewhere sunny. I can fly to fucking Iceland, but I can't fly
such
to
a
Costa
pro.
Rica. What are you talking about? Like such bullshit. It makes no sense. I met a girl here in Costa Rica. She had to fly to Miami or something, Florida first to actually fly to Costa Rica because they weren't letting Canadian Airlines fly to Costa Rica. That is some of the scariest shit
What the
I have seen from what's supposed to be a not oppressive government in my lifetime. That is extraordinarily worrying to me. What do you mean, sunny? What is it? Am I allowed to fly to Costa Rica when it's fucking rainy season then? Like such arbitrary use of linguistics in law and regulation is
how we
fucking
use
freaky.
how we use language is very indicative of kind of where we're going. I think like even the way that they force you to say something in English and French. I mean, when you're forcing somebody to do something, like you're covering a bigger
the deep
issue.
end. That's so we're probably in a war right now. It's just not as noticeable because it becomes more probably for like the individual. It becomes a war on the individual, more say. And I actually, one of the things I love about the Asian culture is that they are less individualistic. But I love that the United States and a lot of Western countries are focused on the entrepreneur, like the person who comes up with a life-changing innovation for the rest of us or something. But I think that there's a middle ground that we've missed, is that we all need each other, not necessarily like the individuation of the culture. And it's gotten extremely it's been worrying once or twice, and that's why, again, I think it's mostly like, if you're not in Venezuela, things are probably fine, right? So where are you when things? And the United States will probably hold itself together. I don't see them getting too out of whack. But a bigger worry is, well, we do still see totalitarian governments. Like, I don't think war is necessarily the answer, like on a bold face, like we're just going to drop a nuclear bomb on you, but we're definitely in an information war where you have one group of governments like openly detesting our way of living, which is for free, open conversation, and the ability to hopefully vote properly. I don't know. We don't even know.
Well,
right?
it's a telltale sign. What we've seen before every, point of war is that the societies have been pushed into corners with illogical and irrational laws that have illogical and irrational repercussions. You go back a couple hundred years ago, it was illegal to, even 100 years ago, it'd be illegal to hold hands with somebody of a different color walking on the same side of the street.
It was 1961.
It drove people here, in the U.S.
So Loving Day
it had to be a
would
specific place,
the day
right?
where it was.
I can't everyone have laws like that.
No, racism existed. You weren't allowed to walk down the street on the same side.
Interracial marriage was illegal in the United States, so I believe
all of the United States,
all of it for a long time.
And so look up Loving Day if you Google Loving Day.
We just got gay marriage 4 years ago.
I didn't realize that. I didn't realize it was that bad. That's a crazy one. That's so random.
So
I know.
And that's not being able
to
travel from Canada to Costa Rica. It's these illogical and irrational laws with the weird repercussions for breaking them. It's sort of like one of those telltale signs of a society getting to a point of either a revolution or a catalyst for, war.
They're both the same thing in a lot of ways.
In people. Anyway, so we're in for interesting times. I try to ignore most of it. I try to really personally ignore most of that stuff. I kind of I like to know what's going on, and because my family lives in Canada, and because I believe we're getting to the point of being a global species, I want to stay kind of tuned in instead of just
now
totally
we're a lot like
out.
lion prides and a lot less like ant colonies, and I feel like we should strive more to be like ant colonies and a lot less like the prides of lions.
The bees.
That would fortunately we don't have many of them
fucking medicinal honeybees. We should be like a group of medicinal honeybees. We don't even sting. We don't even sting. We just fly around. Fuck with some beautiful flowers,
and for some reason we make hives
home
in really dangerous places that we know people want to get to. So it's like a fun game that those bees play on humans. I've seen where that medicinal honey can be sometimes naturally, and it's like
they make it right on my door.
Oh wow, no way! Because I've seen
that's what Mars is.
I've seen documentaries of people that had to hunt medicinal honey, and they're like rock climbing and they're like hanging off the cliffs, and I'm like,
I think it's a very specific type of hallucinogenic honey.
Yes,
I think you're talking about a very specific of like high mountain bee. So there's a crap ton of bees, right? In the northern part of the world, you get a very few. Here, I think there's like right outside of my door, I've just let them keep building because I think they're amazing and I don't want to fuck with them because most of them don't sting. There's only one where every time I see him, I'm like, kill that motherfucker. Like, get him out of here. Like, that motherfucker is like an annoying bee. Like, I do not want that bee. But the others, I'm very stoked with. They've been building houses we use like a teak or it's a laurel hardwood on the balcony upstairs, and they build these houses out of like the wood from the pine trees here too. So it's like all this bark from the pine tree in like weird angles. And then the small ones, they're really super tiny. They'll fly up on you and they'll just start they just give you little bee kisses and shit. They make medicinal honey and they're amazing.
Sounds cute.
Little
bee kisses. I want bee kisses.
You know what? I love bees, but I'm deadly allergic to them at the same time. It's a weird relationship.
Don't sting.
Yeah, but I have a phobia. I have a total If there was a bee in a car and we're on the highway, there's like a weird chance I might jump out of a moving car doing 80 miles an hour just because of a bumblebee. And I
That's
wouldn't
really
be.
good.
I
Have you
couldn't
been stung
be,
before?
Yeah, dude. I couldn't breathe. Been to the hospital like 3 times.
Have you fallen out of a car going over 20?
No, but I know that
It's probably way
I
worse
know
than not being able to
me,
breathe and having to go to
dude,
the hospital.
I've been like on dates with I've been on a
Probably
date
very
with like
similar,
the
actually.
hottest girl I've ever been on a date with, and a bumblebee lands near. I ran. I'm like, yeah, I'm never calling her again.
Aw.
Dude, bees.
Well, you
that's
gotta
a
be
weird
worried then
phobia.
because bees are attracted to beautiful flowers. It's a
It's very true.
And I love bees. I do. I think they're adorable. And if
See,
I
you
wasn't
just-
so allergic,
what
I'd
if
pet one.
what if Ken, it's actually your irrational fear of bees that make you allergic to them. At this deep sensory level, your mind is just so convinced that bees are this
It's
scary
fear.
thing that that it's just fear that's made
I
the
wasn't afraid of them
allergy.
the
Does
first
that mean a
time they
weird
stung me
fear
and I almost
response?
died.
Well, no,
though.
the only because we've seen scientific studies where we can change people's
That
like
is
where
true.
allergies can be altered with nothing but
placebo and
placebo
nocebo
effects.
effects. Yeah.
Yeah, and at a fairly high number, you'd be surprised at how high of a number. Like, whoa, okay, so it's like we can fix people with sugar pills a bunch of the time. Like, okay, maybe
pretty
offer people more.
remarkable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's incredible, right? But I'm not sure if I'm pretty sure anaphylactic shock is not like
Yeah, that's
this.
a real
I think-
thing.
Yeah, it's a real thing.
Then,
You know, you just breathe, motherfucker. You'll do just-
You should
Breathe,
be
all in your
choosing to
mind.
breathe.
Yeah, you just
Why
have to go
aren't you
David
choosing
Goggins
to
on it.
breathe?
Yeah, well, maybe if enough bee exposure that don't sting, like you lose your fear, and
That
then
would
you
be.
also
I
lose your
definitely would be
your.
interested in that. I'm afraid of heights, and my one of my goals in life is to jump out of a perfectly functioning airplane, just so I could just challenge that fear of heights like so head
It's
on.
fun. It's
I'm
fun.
afraid of heights too, and skydiving, so we should do it together.
I'm down.
You'll like it. Your body, as soon as you jump out, like no matter what you think, your body is like, "What are you doing, motherfucker?" Like,
yeah.
why are we so fucking goddamn high up right now? Like your body at a visceral experience is like this. Something is very wrong. Like you ever get needles and like for vitamin C or to get your blood taken? You got
Yeah.
needles lately? Does it ever make you feel like, because it almost always makes you feel like I'm going to pass out. I haven't yet, but it makes me feel like I'm
I
going to
have
pass out.
actually no problem. I've donated
Yeah, I
blood
don't
every
mind.
year when I was in high school. Whenever it's convenient,
I watch
I'll
it go
donate
in and
blood,
everything.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Really? See,
Yeah.
it didn't bother me when it would go in, but my body at a visceral level would recognize something was wrong and get confused. It felt like.
Oh, okay.
Like I was sitting there, I was fine, I didn't give a shit, and all of a sudden it felt like my nervous system recognized that there's like a pint of blood gone or some shit. It's like, whoa, and then all of a sudden just goes through this big like adrenaline check to find out where the fuck something's gone wrong. It's like, what did I miss? Where's all this blood gone? Like, you know, even all of a sudden your gas tank was like, and your internal fucking system was like, whoa, like it felt like
I'm the
that's-
kind
I
of
think-
kid in high school that would donate blood and do push-ups till he fainted in the gym, and like, yeah, I think
That's
it's because
not
I
good.
like those visceral roller coasters. I actually don't. They don't stand out to me as much because I embrace them, and I like that's. It's like I
See, for me-
donate blood just for that feeling I think you're describing, so I don't feel it the same way. But I it's probably there. There is a something I do feel viscerally, like donating 2 pints of blood or getting some kind of like, you know, medicine through that means. I definitely do it. Like my body acknowledges it, but I think it's more of like a euphoric, like, yeah, we're getting high or something. Like
People
something's
get
different
addicted
today.
to needles
Yeah.
going in them. Like heroin addicts actually get. I forget what the term
Piercings.
is.
I have so many
get addicted
piercings
to,
that I don't even use. They're
that
just random
feeling.
holes in my body because I loved it.
My first time having a needle in my arm was at a music festival. That was my spot. Vitamin B6 and B12,
I
and
was
a
like,
bunch
this
of
didn't
vitamin
sound
C. And now every time I've gone, yeah, they're doctors.
Yeah.
They're like for instance, my doctor here in Costa Rica, because I live in such a gangster-free country, I can go to him and like, shoot, you want like give me a bunch of vitamin C, he'll hook me right up. My dentist used to motherfucking have nitrous oxide just up until the last 2 years.
Oh wow.
I
Cool.
stopped being able to get nitrous oxide when I went to the dentist. It was amazing. You ever go to the
Just stop
dentist and
by
like,
randomly for fun.
no, I get my teeth cleaned every 6 months. No, I
Yeah.
get my, you know, anyways, the point is.
That's a really good way
You
to
got
get me to
sensitive
go to the
teeth, I need the
dentist
nitrous.
twice a year,
That's why
though.
also why I'm such an idiot. Like my teeth are clean as fuck, but my brain is broken.
I can resonate with that a little. I had braces for like a decade, man, like a whole decade of braces. And whenever I see somebody eating like a caramel apple or like a hard candy, it's just like, damn, I can't bring myself to do certain things like that. But because 10 years of braces,
Yeah, I'm not.
I
doing
have
that.
I have
Yeah.
nightmares
But this
of
is also
chipping
the
a
reason-
tooth. Like that's how afraid. Like I've had braces for 10. I'm afraid of. I have
Had
nightmares.
tooth
that
nightmares.
My teeth, like I do. I have
Those are
nightmares
common.
where like my teeth
That's
might
awesome,
fall
though,
out or my
kind
teeth
of.
might chip or something, and then I wake up and I'm like checking my damn mouth and I'm like, okay, they're all there. They're all good.
I was thinking
It's
more
very-
like
it's very-
cartoon teeth acting really aggressively and doing odd
This
things.
is coming. This is coming from the same place as your allergic reactions to bees. It's actually the same mental spot.
Yeah. Everything you do is a fear response.
Yes. You just need to overcome. You need to start by jumping out of the plane, I think is really.
Yeah.
what it comes
Jump
down
out
to.
of the plane, then go play with bumblebees, and then potentially get a tooth removed on purpose. That's
Yeah, like a wisdom tooth you clearly don't need.
I had all
Go
four
running,
removed.
get bees to chase
They're all
you,
gone.
and then jump off a cliff with a parachute.
The only
Don't-
teeth I
just
have
make-
left are the ones I need.
No, you should definitely have a rational fear of bees, like the tarantula hawk wasp. You ever seen that?
Ooh.
Yeah.
You ever seen a tarantula hawk wasp?
Yeah, those things are pretty big, actually.
I almost stepped on a copperhead like 2 days ago, hiking on
No,
the back of my
I was
property,
watching a
so-
video on the quote unquote
dangerous.
killer bees that or whatever, the killer hornets or killer wasp, whatever it was. I think it was a killer wasp. I don't know, but it was only like dangerous here in the States.
Yeah, it's that tarantula hawk thing. I think
Yeah,
he
that's
was
what I think he's
about.
talking about. They call it like the killer wasp or something. But yeah,
Yeah, I
that
think
thing
they have
is
them in the Southwest.
big.
Yeah, they don't
Tarantula
screw
hawk
around.
wasp.
That's
Yeah.
and it looks like I've been watching random like meme stuff lately, and somebody was doing really good like jokes on like language, and it was
Look
like
at these.
naming
Yeah.
animals.
I'm scared of this bee with you. Okay, now I have a bee because I have a bee fear too.
But it's
Whatever
not
happened
like-
to that super bee that was here like right when
Look at
COVID
this.
hit? There was like those evil bees that were here too, and they're just gone, right? You remember that?
Fucking winter happened.
Yeah,
I know, but
that's-
like no, everybody just forgot about that shit.
there was like
That's 'cause winter
seven-
happened.
There was
They weren't
seven
supposed to be there.
major
They're
world
migrating too much.
stories.
Too warm a winter.
Yeah, they jumped
Too
every
cold
2
winter.
weeks to a new topic, and this
terrifying.
was just one of those topics. But it's not that I'm
Blame
like,
the bees.
afraid of it, or I think it's scary looking. Even
No,
just
it's
like-
actually it's fearful for your body at
They
a
look-
deep level.
Yeah, I
You
know.
have
It's like
allergic
when I look
reaction.
at like it's when I see a lion
have
at the
abs.
zoo,
Do you
right?
know-
And I'm like, well, that lion could kill me. I see a bumblebee, and I'm like, wow, that bumblebee could kill me.
Yeah. Do you is it all bees? Do you know? Like when you go to the doctor, you ever ask them like, is it all motherfucking bees that this is gonna happen to? Or is it just like specific types of bees?
I don't know. Actually, I never really asked. I've just had to like. They just said always carry.
And
your,
these bees here don't sting at all. They're like they're
just carry your
friends.
EpiPen and you'll be fine. And then some dickhead made EpiPens cost like $3,000, and I said, well, screw that guy. I'll just carry Benadryl. It's 50 cents.
Yeah. I don't know much about anaphylactic shock.
don't either.
We've hit my limit already.
Well, I'll
All
tell
I
you
know
right
is-
now, if
It's
you're
my
not
threshold
in
for medical
anaphylactic
knowledge.
shock and you want to have a good time, and there's an EpiPen lying around,
Drink
it's no.
Stab it in your heart.
Oh,
Right in
no,
your
okay.
thigh. Right
Directly
in your
into your
thigh.
heart.
Right in your
Okay.
thigh. Right in your thigh. Have fun. It's going to be like that movie Crank.
Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, Pulp Fiction. Exactly.
These are not experiences
draw the
I
dies.
usually seek out, but yeah,
Go down in the stabbing
I like
motion.
it. I like. See,
It's
this
like,
is why I want to be a cartoon character for when we end up in space chats. It just makes it easier.
Well, then yeah, you get to
When
live out
Kid's
it
on there,
without
he
having
needs
to
a
live it
Space
out.
Ghost vibe, like because that was his inspiration.
Yeah,
originally.
Space Ghost Coast to Coast is my hero. I hope they bring that show back.
Are you
that
more of
would
a
be awesome.
Moltar or a Zorak?
Zorak.
Yeah, me too, probably.
He was in. Moltar was in charge of like the studio.
He was like
stuff. He's a
downstairs.
producer, right?
He would pull the lever,
Yeah.
and then he would put it back up, and he would touch something, and he'd pull the lever.
Yeah, he did the
No
commercial.
That's
fuck, who we
Moltar.
talking about?
There's lava next. to him.
Cartoon podcasting from the 90s for kids. There was a kid show of a cartoon hero interviewing real celebrities like Carrot Top and Britney Spears, but it was
It
for
was
kids and it was a
awesome.
cartoon interview podcast show. It was
They
amazing.
need to bring this back.
Absolutely.
It's incredible.
Imagine a cartoon just talking shit straight to like Elon Musk's face. Like it's so much fun. Just
And then
to
attempting to
imagine
murder his co-host at least twice an episode.
Wait, what's it called?
it. Space Ghost Coast to Coast. And there's
When-
some
what
really
year is
good
it from?
conversation. Probably the early 90s, right? I mean, I remember being really young watching it.
What about Brack? I'm kind of a Brack guy.
You are
I'm
my
very
Brack.
partial. I am Brack. Like, hey, how's it going? Yeah, pretty much. I think I've actually done that exact.
Yeah, no, I definitely
I'm
feel like if
feeling
you,
it
I
now.
feel like if you watched a little bit of this, you would definitely get like the vibe out of like what you were talking about with.
They didn't put Brack on the poster at all. Or
Yeah,
list his
you
name.
have space chats. This is Space Ghost. I mean, this is like serendipity at its finest.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Hulk Hogan was on the show. That's right, dude. There were so many good interviews.
Oh, there was like
There was,
A-list
as a kid,
celebrities.
this was the only way to watch interviews.
What, really?
Like, how else would, as a 10-year-old, watch their hero and get interviewed? We don't watch the news.
Russ Lassie, I wish Lassie was my pet. Me
They
too.
kind of look the same.
But Ted Turner,
They're the same
both
jaw.
had pets in the studio.
This is brilliant.
Ever since Banjo.
Thank you.
Dude, watch all of these.
Banjo, his dog.
You're gonna
He's not
love
allowed
this
in the
shit.
studio.
He can push us around. Even you, Hulk. Well, I don't know. What if Ted made you do C-Roxing all day? In an apron.
And then it would go silent for a little bit occasionally.
I like when I was
Dope.
this is one of the flexibilities of the idea that I thought would be fun too, is your ability to interact with guests that are not actually intending to interact with you in any way, shape, or form. You
Yes,
just like
you
kind of
can-
throw
you
them in the
can-
mix. Like they ain't got no choice. Like I'm bringing you on the show, Gary V. There's nothing you could do about it.
Well,
Dude, I wonder
you
from a
also have
guest-
you also have an interesting medium though, because you can edit what you're actually saying to your guest and your actual responses with
Yeah.
predetermined things. So now you can make it more of that. Like,
Yes.
yeah, that's like Comedy Central. A lot of the times Comedy Central will have an actual interview, and then when you notice what they do with the interview after they interview somebody,
Yeah.
they'll record the interviewer saying things like with an over-the-shoulder look without. So it's like
Absolutely.
has nothing to do with the real conversation you had. You just
Right,
have
right.
things now that you can do with editing and movie magic to make it look like you said something and respond it in a different way that wouldn't derail the conversation, but also has good entertainment in it. So that's what
Yeah,
Space
like-
Ghost did. Space Ghost did not have that real interview conversation. They just
Yeah.
took a real interview
They're
conversation and
No, I like
put
that.
stuff
That's-
in the middle of it. It was great.
Yeah, I think,
Yeah, it's
we've
great.
thought that this was one of the strategic advantages for those types of conversations, and just try to look at how to take advantage of the podcast sector while it's still early, to some degree. I think it's I loved what we were doing, but everyone just only wanted my financial thoughts, and I want to talk with weird fucked people and say stupid shit.
Yeah.
And they kind of don't mesh the greatest for me because I sound serious or something. I don't know. Like maybe it's because I'm serious a lot of the times about certain things. Like some things I
Very
take
serious.
seriously, yes, but not all things do I take seriously.
Yeah.
I like accidentally saying dumb shit is because it means I might be on the verge of learning something new.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, it's a risk I want to take, and it's a hell of a lot easier to take maybe looking at a fucking cartoon.
Yeah, like
That
you
is a good
said
point.
several times today, shit talk is like something that kind of leads to positive outcomes the majority of the time.
Well, it can definitely lead us somewhere where we didn't know we were going to end up, and I think that's the
Yeah.
kind of the fun of communication. It's like a form of exploration as well. We don't, you don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what kind of conversation or what kind of unique ideas,
Yeah.
and how the community responds to those conversations, especially in pertinent times of, you catch that live conversation, or you don't have to be pre-scripted, but then you have this kind of backdrop that's the exact opposite, or at least looks like it, like a cartoon. Like a cartoon looks pre-scripted, but it's very likely that over the next year or two we'll be able to go live with these characters too. So I will be able to, as I'm like right now, I could be the character on Zoom instead. Like I wouldn't have to show up as me. I could show up as me, the cartoon character, on Zoom as well. So just as this new kind of era of the metaverse taking place, where we can build these kind of skeletons of people in the way we communicate. And a lot of us are already communicating like this now anyways,
Yeah.
whether it's podcasts or just direct conversation. Have you seen the things on the Facebook chats where you can turn yourself into like a duck or something ridiculous?
I was just literally
Oh, yeah.
clicking around to do something just like that for you.
Yes. Wait, and what are you doing that through?
That's on Zoom
That
here.
was
If you
just
go
Zoom.
into your
Zoom
settings.
has those.
So if you see stop
Yeah,
video,
Zoom.
there's a little option. You can go to background and filters.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my God, you've just changed my life. This is
Zoom
exactly what the fuck I
references.
wanted.
Oh, you're
Wow.
surprised.
Yes, this is exactly
and
what
I
we've
think
done.
you can upload your own
Hell yeah.
or something like that.
Oh, I like the sunglasses. I wear those in meetings sometimes so people can't see my eyes. Honestly.
Hey.
Yeah, I did a legit business meeting with those sunglasses on before. The guy just didn't really acknowledge it. It's just even weirder, actually.
Yes.
Uh,
What the? See, this is exactly what I'm talking about. The next level of where we are going is this becomes like,
That suits you, actually.
yeah, I just put like, you put the duck mouth here, all of a sudden we've got a new background, and before you know it, we're on space chats, baby. This is it.
Yeah, this is, and again, I think you're right with those future forms of mediums of being able to, you know, be be yourself or not have to be that, be able to jump like I do and hopscotch in and out of personalities and different characters in different environments. Like you could be, yourself, or you could be a duck. Like that's the freedom we have right now, is like you can do both. You could have a Twitter account that you're public, and you could have a Twitter account that nobody knows
This is
is
why
you.
so. This is,
The eye
I
was
can't
pretty
even say
good.
what I'm going to say unless I'm a full cartoon. I'm not even full enough aware to say the dumb shit I was just about to say.
I love the loading bar because I feel like that is like, this is probably how I look to like omnipotent
that was you when you
beings
brain
and
farted.
different-
I saw that over your head.
I can't believe I couldn't think of spirit science for that whole like 2 minutes, bro. And I was like, oh yeah,
Nobody
spirit
cared.
science. No,
I'm
they
telling
did.
you.
I'm telling you, people in the chat, check out spirit science and just go back like 2 years and catch up to where they're at today. And you'll be able to see like, wow, like they were really on like a wild spiritual financial journey and didn't know it for years. It just correlates so well. That background looks like that's where it's at right there. Yeah, I can see him literally building it right now in front of me.
He's building as you go.
Look how close we are. It's crazy. I mean, this is the metaverse, right? This is have you guys? Oh, nice. That's a good one. Does it blink when you blink?
Oh, I wish. It's
Oh,
just like I'm just blinking really hard and it moves my forehead.
We're
which
there.
just makes me look
we
weird.
are there right now. It's crazy. I can't believe it. Yes.
That's a piece of art that I made.
I love it. This is how we do the future. We're in the future, ladies and gentlemen. You wanted flying cars? We have them.
Yes.
Just not in the real world, only in our digital world. So fuck you. We're staying
Whoa.
with it. Okay, yeah. Have you read Snow Crash? Any of you read that book? I know Ken, you don't like reading.
I'm just
Ken's
I'm
like,
not gonna say
I didn't
anything.
read this
I
year.
want to try. I love the book. It's such a great book.
So here's my thing for ready.
Books scare me. They're like
books are for
bees.
dead
I get
people.
anaphylactic shock.
Books
Books
are
are for,
dead
I want
people.
you to tweet that so bad. Books are for dead people.
I'm still alive. I have no need for a book. When I
You
die,
can
they'll
listen to
make one for
audiobooks
me.
though too. You can like listen to
Yeah,
audiobooks.
but
You don't
this
actually
is-
have to read.
But that's
Yeah,
not
Ken.
my. So here's the thing with me and all that. With like, that's not my medium.
A book is like a book is like one person podcast.
But that's exactly
A very well thought out podcast.
I don't really watch too many videos. Like I watch some of yours and all, but I don't watch too many people's videos where it's just one person talking. I like the banter. Like I could listen to Joe Rogan for 12 hours. I could maybe listen to an audiobook for 12 minutes.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Okay.
It's
See,
different,
I guess
it's
yeah.
different stimulating or different mediums, but like, I've tried doing the audiobook. I listened to Safedine Anumis's The Bitcoin Standard.
Yeah.
And it just felt like, I don't know, it just like didn't seem like anything new to me as far as information wise. And then I couldn't have any banter to grow any of the thoughts that we're building on top of. So like that's why I love podcasting and being able to talk with people. That's why I really went on a journey for crypto conferences and went to so many events. Was I found out like just by being with somebody one-on-one and talking, or just being there to like engage with that education I'm getting, that suits me so much more that it would be a waste of time for me intellectually, maybe not entertainment wise. But I'm not going to learn anything from reading a book or listening to an audio book. I have to have back and forth. I need like hands-on, and I've always had like dyslexia or whatever. So when I was in school, I always kind of got that treatment anyway. Whereas like kind of got that hands-on education, personal stuff, and kind of that's what drove me to do the podcast. Was like, how do I get like Charlie Shrem to want to talk to me so I can learn from him? So I don't have to like read his book. Oh, I can do a podcast and Charlie Shrem will want to come on and talk to me, and then I can learn from him. This is like
It's game theory.
This is my scam. I'm gonna
I
get
just
people
tricked
like
them into thinking
Arcane.
it's important.
I'm gonna get
It's not.
Arcane Bear to come on my podcast, and I'm gonna get to learn from him. And
Yes.
So
Like I guess that what I. So first off, Snow Crash is a fantastic book, and it's kind of
waiting
where
for
the
the
idea of
movie.
the metaverse came from. I think it was written in the 1990s, and it's like a cypherpunk book, a cypherpunk classic recommended by most of the cypherpunk kids. But it takes you through the story of this guy who lives in this kind of weird part of the world's all fucked up. So he lives in the digital world. He lives in the what they call the metaverse. And he's like one of the original
Right.
programmers and developers in the metaverse. He's got all these different skills and stuff like this. I don't know. I feel like the NFT world, like just what we're seeing right now, the fact that these sunglasses don't actually look that bad is kind of, interesting.
And you can move around too. It's like,
Well,
that is really interesting.
It's even crazier than that. If my computer was still running the software I'd show you, I wonder if I posted them. Hold on. I may have posted them on the other channel on Twitter here.
Somebody in my chat said that I scammed them by making them rich. Sorry.
Scam.
Oops.
It's fun.
Man basically just said be your own Satoshi. Yeah, that's my tagline in Twitter. Be your own Satoshi. You're right. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm just sorry.
It's hard to tell if you're frozen or not because I can't see your eyes.
Yeah.
That actually could be different because of like cartoon interaction, facial reading, like social cues. Even with just a mask on in public, social cueing has become like somewhat dulled down. I actually think it would be interesting to see how people would have a video conversation with those animated social cues without having the human ones to go off of.
Well, it's just like an audio. Just audio. I mean,
yeah, but there's those videos things though, right? When you're on a phone call with somebody, there is a difference than having that video conversation.
You think of how crazy it would be if instead of on it depends, right? It depends. We're talking to people who are our age, so people like us are going to like this style. Like the fact that you have a Rick and Morty background, I think, was very telling, because it's the same ish, different, but same, or whatever. I don't know. It's a fucking.
That's a meme, right? Same but different, but still same.
Wait, it was from Arrested Development, wasn't it?
No, dude, the interview where they killed, where they tried to kill Kim Jong-un. Yeah.
Wait, you call him Jimung?
Kim Jong-un, right? Isn't that his name?
Yeah, you got it.
It's who wrote that film?
Seth Rogen wrote it. Dude.
That's who it was. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. They fucking. I remember when that movie came out, everybody thought we were going to go to war over a Hollywood movie.
You almost started a war at Christmas time.
I just think it was really good marketing. That was like the best. It marketing.
Was. Yeah, and the Sony hack happened.
Oh, it was. That's right. The Sony hack. That was really close.
The Harvey Weinstein thing happened like literally a couple, I think like right after. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm confusing those two. Oh, I think docs were leaked that ended up leading to that. So a lot of stuff was actually connected because of that movie. He almost started he did start a shitstorm.
It's definitely started a conversation in a different way. That was fun to watch. The mainstream talk about the Chinese-U.S. relations and then talk about how this movie from Hollywood could start wars, but sanctions aren't even a topic of the conversation.
So I like to stir pots a little bit. Like I'm a very peaceful guy, but I also like to get people talking. And I think it's really good for society to kind of do those interesting things, as long as nobody actually gets killed.
I'm not coughing. You're coughing.
You're coughing, bro. What is this, your first time?
People are definitely are going to die. It's a fact. It's a down.
Are we though? No, like I'm with.
Everybody lives forever.
Santa Claus none of us are getting out alive.
Eternal life. Yeah, just wait. Hold on.
I think we could actually prove reincarnation with blockchain technology, without a doubt. We actually have a technology that we created that can prove that there is an afterlife and reincarnation exists without a doubt. When somebody comes back 100 years from now and types in a couple words that they can't get out of their head,
ever since they were like a cartoon for this conversation.
Ever since they were born, they just hear these 12 to 24 words in their head and they just can't get it out of their head. These words, every time they see one of them, there's a pattern in their life. They type it into a Bitcoin wallet 100 years from now and realize that they were fucking Satoshi Nakamoto. They have access to the Genesis block. Like they have the keys to the first Bitcoin 100 years from now. We can prove reincarnation exists with this. Sorry to go all weird and woo-woo.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if that's true or not. I have
I was
no.
like, I don't know. I was sitting here thinking like,
If somebody
I'm not-
came up to you
It
100 years
sounds
from
good.
now and said, I can't get these words out, they see a shaman, they go through meditation, and they just come up like, maybe I should just do something with these words,
think
and
the-
comes out to be
I
a
th-
private key.
I think the universe is
That'd be
kind of
cool.
like a blockchain, like this
Yeah,
universal
the Dalai Lama and
consensus
finding the right
type of
mirror,
mechanism.
the right brush. When you try to find it, is this the Dalai Lama reincarnated? They lay out those 100 items. They ask it.
I just think about it like a rock. I think about like a rock moving through time. Like you got this big rock, and as it rolls down the river, it like gets smoother and rounder. And how many rivers does it have to go down? Where does it break? How big of a rock is it? And then that's kind of like keeping track of where the story's gone. And I don't know how long it takes for that rock to become stardust again. And that kind of recognition of one part of a movement keeping track of the other thing, like the rock is keeping track of itself kind of, and as it degrades through time, we end up with this micro particle of it, and then does it end up back into another planet? Like, what would it be like to follow one particle through 1 billion years of existence, in terms of its memory? Like, how does because the universe is kind of remembering itself on a day-to-day basis. We you could probably track a rock down a river with an RFID chip, or like, is it the same rock, and has it degraded to this level? Are we witnessing, are we all the same spirit? Is there even just like a you, or are we all the same spirit?
us,
And
right.
then you can have a memory, memory of what you are, kind of much like a rock remembers its tumblings through the rivers and into the oceans or whatever. So I don't know if we could prove that multiple lives exist, but I think that there's an argument to be made that the universe is like a giant fucking consensus blockchain mechanism, kind of keeping track of all of its little particles throughout time.
We're trying
And
to
we
figure
would
out how
have
to
to
read the
confirm your
ledger.
identity each life cycle too before we could even determine that. Like, you would have to stay you.
What's you? Is that like your likes
That's
and
what
your
I'm saying.
dislikes?
Well, a lot of us need to ask that question. Who am I? And not how big you
What
are
happens when we
or
turn
who
into
you
cartoons?
think you
We start
are.
asking existential questions.
Well, because your size has changed. So like the question, who am I at 5 would be different at 10, 30, 40, right? If you're not thinking correctly, it would be different answers. The question is not who am I in terms of I am, Nate, I am 6'4", 200 pounds. Like it's like deeper than that. Like I am what, and I think that's like kind of the first question that needs to be answered before we can even think about reincarnation or eternal life or anything, is what is a human being? What is a soul?
I just sent my friend Alex a link for this chat, in case you're wondering.
Appreciate
We
it.
need to confirm the transaction. Like if we're all kind of a block in this chain, like we need to be confirmed that we're actually a thing and that we make sense.
Well, I think that's probably what the cycle is, I think, to some degree.
Yeah, like we're just getting all these different confirmations, and then if we get enough of them, we progress to the next thing, and we get added to the chain. Or maybe there's nothing. Who cares?
Well,
Maybe
there might be that there is a weight behind the level of learning,
right?
or observation, and maybe even participation that's not solely physical. That has like a like some type of essence to it, and definitely not. That's some people talk about the ego being this negative thing. Well, that's your motherfucking hair color, your eye color, your skin color. It's your spirit representing itself through this kind of story of now,
parts
through your
to the
likes
ego,
or
too.
dislikes. Well, I mean, and how much, what does any of the information that you've learned on this world about your allergy to bees have to do with the when you land on some other planet? Is a difference? Like,
there's no bees or anything.
Well, I
as
think
another
Nathan
life might
touched
not
on
have
it.
any fucking relevance no more. Like,
Well, when he touched on
absolutely.
it, when he said like, who are you when you're 5 or 20 or 5th, whatever, I feel like you, or at least
Who's
me,
the you behind the you?
I am constantly changing and evolving. There is
Who's
no
watching?
constant me. At any point in time, either when I take a nap, before or after that nap, I am a completely different person.
Yeah, but the one thing it doesn't
Definitely
change
different
is the
after I
person
eat
that
and nap.
listens to you and the person. There's a difference between the speaking you and the person like listening, and the person that goes that's observing all the things that come out of your mouth. That observer behind the self, behind the narrative self, like that's you. And if you find a way to like access that somehow, it's kind of that's the hard part. I can't tell anybody how to do that. I'm just saying like that's like you as the person that's observing what you're saying. So when you say, I'm saying this, who heard it and who said it? You know, that's because there's sort of a disconnect.
Yeah, I think ideally what's happened is that the universe is separating into different parts so that it can experience itself through that kind of interpretation. Like, have you ever had a motherfucking guanabana? One of these things?
No, but I want one now just because of the way
Oh
you
my dear
said
God.
it.
It is
I don't even know what it is. Give me it.
it is the most
Sounds
one
awesome.
of my favorite fruits. It looks like a goddamn alien. Like, we're already all aliens.
You know,
Anyone
sounds
who's
like one.
like, oh, I don't believe in aliens. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Have you looked at the
What's a
planet around you?
mushroom? You know, damn.
Look at this. So this is a guanabana. They look like little
That looks dope.
dinosaur eggs.
I feel like
It's
I've
like
seen the inside of that.
oh my God. It's a lot. Some people might not like it because it's like a sweet sour fruit.
It's like crunchy.
No, it's kind of gooey, but it
Gooey.
tastes like fucking sour Jolly Ranchers. It's
Kind
where
of looks like durian in a way.
your favorite oh yeah, it's way better tasting than
Yeah,
durian
I
is like
bet,
a hit and miss.
It's
hit
like
and miss.
rotting cheese or something. Durian.
Yeah. I think we're separated through life and death for the ability to taste all these different things. Because like I'm already like, you know, I go to my same restaurant. I like my same fucking food. Like, you know, we already get caught in these routines. I think, you know, part of the ego, or what people probably explain as death, is the burning away of those things, because they're probably fucking useless. What if we send you off to another planet with a totally different body? Like, maybe it's not even maybe they're like a frog. You turn into a motherfucking frog. Your sex life doesn't even matter anymore. It's like unimportant in comparison. You know, I really don't know. And I guess the fun part of questions like this is that there is no answer. When we ask questions where we can't prove, like, I don't think we can necessarily prove like the validity of our consciousness being actually the same consciousness, but it seems pretty damn likely. So at least we can pontificate and run around and see where we end up. And I think, you know, Buddha did it. I think Buddha did this. And if you look this up on the internet, this mudra or whatever, it means like the great argument, or the great like kind of conversation or debate that there were, you know, if you get into a really good existential conversation around anything, it's not an answerable question. We don't know but it's fun to talk about. You know, it's fun to guess and to think about these things. You know, I don't know that there is for sure an ancient civilization here a while ago that seems to be better at stonemasonry, but there's a lot of fucking evidence, and it's fun to talk about. It's fun to think about.
I know, you know, there's a difference there too with a lot of this stuff. Is like, what's fun for me to know I don't know, but also just like convince myself I know it for the sake of enjoying that, you know, like being able to believe in Santa Claus as a 33-year-old in the form of UFOs and the government release. Like, I don't know if it's real, but guess what? I want to believe it's real, and therefore I know it's real to me, like, because that's what I want it to be.
See, aspects of me have for a very long time have felt that we just don't understand physics properly. I think more than aliens itself, I think it's just that we clearly don't understand the universe that we're living in. We have a big gap in our ability to even view the universe and what's right probably in front of our eyes. Like, we just have a very limited sensory perception for a lot of stuff that's going on. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I guess I can't prove it, but I think we're not that far away from being able to do so. I think really what we've got wrong is kind of some of our architectural questions about from a scientific level. Remember, we can make drones that have thermal imaging and shit. Like, we can make some pretty impressive stuff. Look, I've got fucking digital sunglasses on right now. It's fantastic.
Somebody in the chat said, what was I saying about Santa? I said I believe in Santa, bro. Because I want to.
I believe in
It's
Sasquatch,
more fun this way. Bro. It's way more fun to live the few moments I have to exist on this planet and this reality with that mindset in my reality of like I like to believe in Santa Claus, therefore I do, therefore Santa's real.
Dude, it's something like, as children we should have all noticed that if you have like a question with two potential answers, it's always both.
Right, and you get to pick which one you want.
And
right?
I saw that when I was like 5. You know, like it's everything's very because we create the reality around us. Look at the placebo effect that we touched on earlier. I mean, it is literally what we make of it.
Somebody in the chat said how many of my NFTs are still on the Alien Worlds for mining. There should still be plenty of them. If you want to keep track
Ain't
of
no
that,
one-on-ones on the market.
open up your token head application, and type in Bozak Airdrop. And if you put Bozak Airdrop into token head, it'll let you know all the assets that are in that account that will be given to people that are just playing the game and mining. So anything in that wallet, you'll be able to mine for free.
I just realized I got to jump.
Just did that to help you guys.
Well, great chatting, gentlemen.
Yeah, this has been interesting, bro.
Yeah, it's been
I
amazing.
knew it would
Can we
be
do this
fun.
again soon?
Yeah, I was hoping we can make you a regular once a month. This would be so
Yes,
epic.
please.
I do have access to your calendar. I just don't know if I should use it for a once a month booking. But if you give me the go ahead, I will do that.
Yeah, can I get you on my show too? Pretty
Yeah,
please.
I love coming on chat. Well, once a month is a little hard for me because
I
I do
know.
like to keep a no-go calendar. But what is probably more likely where it could be once a month is if when you're doing it, you then message me. So if when you message me, that free time might be easier because then I can just say yes.
Yep.
As in comparison to like planning it out and seeing if it fits in my calendar. If you hit me up and I'm like, I got the free time, I'll jump on. Sure, why not? Sounds like fun.
All right,
But
cool,
actually
cool.
I want to get you on the
calendaring it
Super
in
World show.
sounds a little bit harder.
No,
'Cause
for
then
sure.
I
Come
gotta
on the
think-
Super World show and talk about the metaverse with Rich and I.
Yeah, I'd love to. Ken, it was great. Nate, a pleasure to meet you as well.
Yeah, definitely. I will link up with you after the show, and I will message you, and we will get in touch. And I just want to have some more trippy conversations with you.
Awesome.
Just kind of.
I look forward to it.
Yeah, me too. All right, guys.
All right,
I won't
Nathan's
hold us up
got to
anymore.
run. I'll let him get going. Shout out again to Arcane Bear, my bro. I appreciate you coming on and everybody for tuning in. I gave away a few NFTs, so if you go through the chat, check out the links to make sure there ain't any floating around. But yeah, I gave away a few. Scan the QR code at the bottom. I think it's there at the bottom. If you scan that, you'll get free stuff. And yeah, as always, have a day.
Have a day. We love you.
Thanks.
Hello, happy bros. Hey, you're about to get a face full of the Ken Bozak. He's a mentor. That's what I heard. He's a connector. Oh, yeah. He's a brilliant leader. I've seen it. He's Ken Bozak. Oh, happy bro. You gotta get some Bitcoin and hold it. Happy bros. You gotta get those NFTs and you gotta hodl that stuff. You gotta hodl it. 'Cause I'm Ken bro. We got your Bitcoin, bro. He's an original. Buy some NFTs and hold them. How many times does he have to tell you? Going to the moon. We're going to the moon. We're going to the moon. We're going to the moon. Going to the moon. We're going to the moon. We're gonna get real high. 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 Yeah, we're going to the moon. We're going to the moon. Bro, we're going to the moon. Oh yeah, we're going to the moon. We're gonna get real high. Real high. Yep. Real high. Hello, happy bros. Come get some Ken Bozak.